What's up, guys? E-Drone here. And welcome to Send It Sunday. Yes, we have a very special episode, a very special guest in the house tonight. Real quick, I want to welcome in D353RT, Geppetto's Lab, Technique FPV, Brutus, Failsafe FPV, MD95TSI. What's up, brother? Savannah's Adventures. Hey, sweetheart, Rebecca, and Marcel and Ron Vaquero. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Glad to see you all today. We're going to have an awesome stream. We're going to be doing a lot of good conversation. We got a giveaway going to be on the stream later on. And we're going to have open Q&A for Chris Rosser towards the end of the stream. So if you can, please hold your questions till the end of the Q&A segment. We'll open that up for you. And then if you have any questions that you want to ask Chris Rosser, we're going to have him in here tonight to hopefully get to your questions and answer that for you. So without further ado, please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Chris Rosser. Welcome in, Chris.
Hey, Eric. How you doing?
I'm wonderful. I'm so glad that my equipment decided it was going to work because it wasn't at first. And I'm like, no, not on this stream. No. But it turned around.
Yeah, you got to be careful with the live streams.
Yes. I got a special banner here just for you. Welcome, Chris Rosser. We are so glad to have you in the house tonight. So how have you been? How was your weekend?
Yeah, weekend was really good. Thanks, Eric. I've been busy. Been doing little bits and pieces here and there, but I got out this afternoon for just a really good fun flying session. The first time in a while that I haven't been going out to fly for any particular reason, just went out to just fly, put on some good tunes, and yeah, it was really nice.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I actually was able to squeeze in some flights today as well over at a buddy of mine's. We were finishing up. We had an awesome weekend, and we flew just a really simple spot, a couple trees, tall trees, and some gaps. And man, I tell you, I was like, I'm so glad that we have just this little simple spot and I can just kind of get out of my mind and just kind of relate to the flying and just fly and not worry about anything else other than just getting around these trees and just having some basically just a nature experience with the FPV and everything. I really loved it.
Absolutely.
That's
what it's about.
That feeling, I love it. It's like it just kind of gets you away from yourself for a little bit. You can just kind of just live free in the moment. Man, FPV really is special, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's why we do it, hey?
That's right. We got a couple other people in the house. Welcome in Gel Captain, Double A, and let's see. I thought I saw one more person. Hey, Jim Sinister. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Glad to see you. So, right off the bat, I want to turn it over to you, and I want to talk about how exactly you got started with FPV, Chris, because I happened to just be on the tube one day, and a video of yours popped up, and I said, oh, this sounds interesting, and I started following you and watching, and I'm like, man, this guy's really doing some brilliant work and really taking some deep dives. How did all this get started for you?
Yeah, so I started flying FPV 4 years ago, a bit more than 4 years ago.
Okay.
So it was kind of a long-time lurker, first-time poster type situation. Yeah, so I flew a lot of FPV. I started off with when I first got my first drone, it was a tiny little, like one of those Hubsan toy things. Didn't have FPV on it. And I flew that around and I kind of got used to it. And then I bought a bind and fly 5-inch. And I flew that for a couple of months, and then I crashed it and I broke an arm, and I was like, oh well, I gotta just go all in on this now. So that's when I started building my own quads, and I was lucky really because I had a bit of a background in like Arduino and electronics and soldering and that sort of thing. So it wasn't too much of a learning curve, and lots of videos from the likes of JB helped me kind of get up the learning curve. And then, yeah, I've just been enjoying flying FPV for sort of 4 years. But then, as you do, you kind of want to give back a little bit, maybe, and and share some of the things that you've learned and some of the experience that you have from, well, in my case, from outside FPV, from my work, from my professional life, and yeah, so that's kind of when I decided to get into the YouTube thing a little bit and start doing a bit of FPV frame design.
Okay. So you said Arduino. That's the company you were working for, or you work
No,
for?
no. So Arduino was sort of the electronics I was messing around with before I got into FPV. Just
Oh, okay.
building I built like an automatic plant watering machine, and I built like an automatic door opener and things like
That's
those
awesome.
silly electronics projects that you could go and buy a thing, or you can just try and like make it yourself and code it. That was what I was doing before FPV.
So yeah, you basically are a builder at heart. You love to create and build things with your own hands, and yeah, that's awesome. So FPV was obviously a perfect natural fit for you.
Yeah, yeah, and it fits with my background as well, because I'm an engineer by training. I studied aerothermal engineering at Cambridge here in the UK, and went to work for a technical consultancy, like working on all kinds of weird and wonderful engineering projects for some big organizations. And so, fortunate to have a lot of engineering experience in my professional life, before I kind of got into FPV. So that's kind of what I've been leveraging recently.
And why not? I mean, if you can take a scientific approach and add some value into the hobby, why not? And it seems like you've done a ton of research and you've got a ton of science behind the design of your frames. So you were obviously you started out like you said with a bind and fly, and then you started building your own. What pushed you to say, you know what, I want to make something better, or I want to improve upon something and make it better? What kind of pushed you to do that?
Um, I think it was just kind of looking at the frames that were out there and seeing that they were all very similar in their layout and their design, and that there were some elements of some of those designs which I thought could be improved, could be made better. And I have a simulation engineering background, so I'm familiar with using simulation tools to kind of understand how these systems work and how they might behave when they're flying. And so I was able to analyze a few of these frames, and I measured up some frames that I had, and I simulated them, and I realized that there are sort of some resonant modes that I could find in the frame that I could see in black box logging. And anytime you have resonance noise in black box logs, that at some point is going to limit, what you can do with the tune of the quad, and how far you can push it. And so I kind of wanted to set about trying to remove those limits as far as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and it looks like you've put a ton of time into the resonance, because at the end of the day, we're all looking, to have a smoother flying quadcopter. That's kind of the goal. We want our quadcopters to fly as smooth as possible to get the
Mhm.
smoothest possible footage. So you were thinking to yourself, man, what can I do? What can I contribute to kind of give somebody that experience out of a product that you've helped design and create?
That's right, and I had a lot of respect and admiration for people like Mark Spatz, UAV Tech, and Crunked, and what he's been doing with his tuning, really pushing the tune further and more aggressively, and doing that to unlock better prop wash handling and smoother flight footage, more resistance to turbulence and wind shear and these types of things. And I feel like what I'm trying to do with the frame design is I'm just trying to push that even further. I'm just trying to keep doing that, keep reducing the amount of filtering, keep increasing our PID gains, so that the quad always more closely follows what you tell it to do. Because, and I think this is kind of understood, but when you command the quad to move around, if you've not got a tight tune, what you tell the quad to do is not what it's doing. And that kind of, the difference there, the error that we call the PID error, is a real source of like a lack of confidence sometimes. If you're diving down through tricky areas and you're just not quite sure that you're going to be able to make it through, a lot of that feeling of confidence can be improved by having a quad that more closely follows what you're telling it to do. And that's always the goal with not only with the frames but also with the tuning guides that I try and put out.
Okay. Real quick, welcome in. We've had a couple other people join the stream. We have Deadeye FPV, Failsafe FPV, Andy Taylor. We have Super Deluxe, and we have Drone Warship. If I can see him in here. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Awesome. Good to see you guys. Thanks for coming out and hanging out today. Awesome. So it sounds to me like you've got a goal and you're pursuing that goal. Let's go ahead and shoot over to your website here and take a look at some of your frames. So this is the website here, aos-rc.com. And now we can see we have several models here. Let's talk about the AOS 5.
Yeah, sure. So this was the first frame that I developed, and I really wanted to kind of focus on flight performance. That there is no best frame for everybody. So you go and you look for a best FPV frame. It doesn't exist. But what I was trying to do is I was really trying to produce the best flying frame. So it's meant to be as durable as possible, but the focus is always on flight performance, trying to get the most flight performance out of the design that you possibly can get. And to do that, I wanted to address a few issues that you get with traditional frames. And when I talk about traditional frames, I mean the one with just the 4 arms that go out. You get resonance modes with those arms kind of bending, and also with the motors kind of twisting on the end of the arm. And the problem with that is that those create peaks that get excited by the resonance frequency of the motor, the vibrations created by the motor as it spins. And if that gets through to the gyro, it's going to give you hot motors, it's going to give you oscillations, it's going to limit how hard you can push your tune, and ultimately just limit the kind of the flight experience that you're able to get out of the frame. And so the AOS 5 just prioritizes pushing those resonant frequencies up in frequency so they're easier to filter. You can filter them with less delay, and reducing the amplitude as much as possible. And so that's how you end up with that truss structure. It also has the benefit of being really, really strong in front impacts. And it's also why the arms are 6 millimeters thick. The truss allows you to make the individual struts thinner. And so the weight that I saved there, I used to make the arm taller, thicker. And so the result is that this ends up at 115 grams, and it's got the best resonance characteristics of any frame that I'm aware of for the 5-inch category. And so if you're looking to tune your quad to the limit and get the best possible stick feel out of it, then this is the kind of platform that you want, so that you're not going to end up limited by your frame at any point.
Oh, and a lot would say with the triangular design, you're definitely adding some rigidity to make this a more durable frame. Am I right? Because of the actual symmetry?
Yeah, absolutely. So the triangular truss is super stiff, and that's kind of the goal of it, is to be incredibly stiff. but it's also got massive durability, particularly in kind of front loading situation. And so if you think about when you front load, you crash and hit the front of the arm, you put an enormous torque on the root of the arm where it connects with the frame. Well, if you have a truss structure, that torque doesn't end up applying to the root of the arm. Instead, you get tension in one of the struts and you get compression in the other one. And carbon fiber is a lot stronger in pure tension and compression than it is in torsion. So you can get much more strength that way. And that means you can make the arms thinner than they would otherwise have to be.
Okay. And then a lot of people, I think, have been kind of questioning the fact that you actually, in this AOS 5 frame, there is not a way to mount your stack in the center of the frame. This one shows it front mounted, but that really shouldn't make a difference for the flight. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. So a lot of people ask this question. They say, why doesn't the flight controller need to be in the middle? And the answer is that for a rigid body, which is what a quadcopter is, the rate of rotation is the same anywhere on the body at all times. And that's actually the definition of rigid. If a body is rigid, that does mean that the rate of rotation must be the same at every point on the body at all times. And so the gyro doesn't care where it is. You could theoretically put it on the end of the arm, or you could put it right in the tail or right at the nose. It honestly doesn't matter, because the rate of rotation is always the same wherever you are. And the accelerometer as well, on a small frame, like a 5-inch frame, the accelerometer is also not particularly sensitive to where you mount it either. So, and that's why you don't see the gyro on your flight controller mounted in the middle of the board often. It's usually, on one side. So, it doesn't matter where you mount it. And the advantage of having the two positions like that is it's one of very few frames that I know of where you can actually choose to mount a full 30 by 30 stack in the front or in the back. And you can also put an air unit in the back as well, or you can put a Vista or something up front. So it's quite a lot of flexibility with where you put different components.
And I really like that you have the two different mounting options for your stacks, because there is a lot of frames out here that only have center mounted stack options. They may have room in the front or the back, but they just don't have the holes. So it's nice that you've thought about that and you said, okay, let's go ahead and make it optional to mount your stack either in the rear or the front, and that gives you a little bit more versatility. So whether someone decided to mount the flight controller in the front or if they decided to mount it in the back, it should make no difference on the actual flight characteristics of that quadcopter, correct?
Not at all. No, it should be exactly the same, whichever you choose.
Okay. Absolutely. Now, that's the AOS 5. Now, you've got basically a lineup here. Let's talk about your AOS 5.5, because this one, you've done a little bit of changes.
Yeah, so we just talked about, center-mounted stack or not center-mounted stack. So the AOS 5.5 has a center-mounted stack. And the reason for that is that it's a little bit bigger. And whenever you make a frame bigger, you have all sorts of things that are working against you in terms of the resonance performance, in terms of the flight performance. You've got bigger motors and bigger props, which create more vibration because they're just bigger. You also have those bigger motors that are heavier on the end of a longer arm. So you have a heavier motor on the end of a longer arm, and that has a lower resonant frequency. So the challenge here was that with the AOS 5.5, it wasn't going to be efficient to manage the first resonant mode of the quad in the same way that I did for the AOS 5, because I would have just had to add too much material and the quad would have been too heavy. So the AOS 5.5, instead, the two struts are designed such that the first resonant mode has a node in the middle of the frame. So that means that the first resonant mode doesn't move the center of the frame. And so that's where the flight controller goes. and so it makes it immune to that first mode, and then all the other modes are handled by the shape and by the design. And I think it's worth kind of why do a 5.5 inch quad? You know, just on a 5 inch, why do a 5.5? Well, the main reason is because GoPro decided to make heavier action cameras. The Hero Session was 75 grams or something. And the Runcam 5 is like 50 grams. And then you've got these, like, you know, the Hero 9 is like 150 grams or something.
Okay.
And sorry, Karen?
Oh, no, I just, real quick, we were going to do the Q&A towards the end of the stream, guys, but Super Deluxe did come through with a super chat, so I definitely have to highlight that. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, Super Deluxe. Greatly appreciate that. We definitely want to make sure we... Anytime someone super chats, you know what happens. We get Carlton up in the house. He does his little dance thing, and he's making it rain in the house tonight. And everything you guys put into the channel, you know, we try to put right back out to you in the community for giveaways and stuff like that. So thank you so much. Real quick, Chris, we're just going to go ahead and answer this super chat if you wouldn't mind. Question for Chris:
so
what is your? Oh, did you already read it? I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
What is your opinion on pilots that don't tune? Most firmwares are at the point where you don't even have to tune if you don't want to. People like you have helped pave the pathway for us. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think it's a hobby, right? I mean, at the end of the day, these are toys, so it's really up to you if you want to tune. You don't have to, and Superlux is right. You know, firmware Betaflight's at the point where you can whack it on any quad on stock and it'll fly. Great. But I think particularly for pilots who, you know, are more experienced or even newer pilots who really want to get into FPV and get the best possible tune they can, get the best possible flight feel they can, then I think at some point you kind of have to look into tuning, and you have to tame that dragon, if you like, because you can get so much more flight performance and so much more stick feel and so much more confidence by improving the tune on your quad than you can with leaving it stock. And having that extra confidence, for me at least, it makes me feel more confident when I'm flying, and it means that I can do things that in my FPV flying that I wouldn't be able to do otherwise. I wouldn't be confident to do otherwise. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. I feel like it's all about confidence, in that you know that your quad is going to be there and do exactly what you want it to do, exactly when you tell it to do it. And you're not going to have prop wash or oscillations or shimmers or difficulty with turbulence and wind and that sort of thing.
Okay, so yeah. We're trying to get the most amount, push the tune as far as you possibly can safely to get the best possible flight performance out of it. So if you have the hardware and the resonance already going for you in your frame design and the way your frame handles vibrations, that's going to be an added benefit because you're able to tweak those PIDs a little bit further, correct?
Yeah. Exactly right. And that's why I say sort of the AOS frames, that they fly great on stock Betaflight, but they really come into their own when you're pushing your tune, because you will be able to go further with an AOS frame than with a typical frame, and that will mean that you will end up with less prop wash, less jello, less oscillations if you have issues with that. And hopefully get a better flight experience, and then hopefully that will translate into more confidence when you're flying, and that will help you improve your flying and your freestyle more quickly as well.
Absolutely. Real quick, Dan, Chris Rosser, we talked about it in the beginning, how he kind of got started in FPV. But if you check out his channel, you'll see that he's doing some amazing things with resonance vibration, and he's designing his own frames that are going to help to mitigate a lot of the vibrations that frames would traditionally get. And he's got some scientific testing that he's been doing, checking out the different harmonics of the vibrations through the different types of frames. So really interesting stuff, very scientific, and it's coming from a different, definitely a different standpoint than we've probably normally seen when we talk about frames and testing and things like that. So I encourage you, you can rewind the stream to watch what you missed. But yeah, we're gonna talk about Chris's frames, and then we're gonna do an open Q&A towards the end of the stream, guys, for Chris. So if you guys have questions, he's gonna get to them at the end of the stream for you. Okay, let's go ahead and jump over to the AOS 3.5.
Sure. So this frame is super simple. This is just the best possible flight performance under 250 grams, no compromises.
Okay, and it looks like you've got a whoop stack available here in this, as well as 20 by 20 and 30 by 30, or
no 30 by 30 in this one. It's 25 by 25 or 20 by 20, and it's got a 20 by 20 in the rear as well.
Okay, so basically, with the way the 20 by 20's technology has been going in the whoop boards, really don't see much of a need to even put a 30 by 30 in this frame, especially when you're going for the more lightweight. Now, is this going for that under 250 gram weight limit, Chris?
That's the whole point of it.
Okay, yeah. Perfect.
This is you want to get under 250 grams, maybe because it's a legal requirement, or because you just that's your limit where you want to be. But you don't want to give up anything. You want the best possible flight performance under 250 grams. And that's the point of this frame.
And it seems like, you're not sacrificing just because you've gone a little bit smaller on the frame. You've not sacrificed your durability because you're sticking with the same geometry and symmetry of the frame design as far as the triangular structure and the thickness of the carbon for the arms and the top and bottom plate. Am I right?
Yeah, so these are 4mm arms, 2mm top and bottom plate. So it's sort of striking the right balance between weight and durability, I think, at this size. I did a tip speed analysis, so looking at propeller tip speed, which is a great scaling factor. No matter how big or small your prop is, you're always aiming for the same tip speed. It's about 450 miles an hour. And the 3.5-inch size is just right to be able to get enough battery and enough motor to spin a 3.5-inch prop and hit that ideal tip speed. And so that's why I think that 3.5-inch is the best size for 250 grams. If you go bigger than 3.5, you can no longer carry enough battery or motor to hit the optimum tip speed. So you're leaving performance on the table, basically.
Okay.
And if you go smaller than 3.5, well, then you're starting to increase your disc loading. So your props are getting smaller, which means that they have to work harder to lift the same amount of weight. So yeah, 3.5 strikes a really nice balance.
And also, would you be fair to say that this 3.5 would carry like a GoPro Session style camera pretty well for HD recording as well, since we're getting that little bit of extra thrust with the bigger prop?
I think for cruising, yeah, definitely. I think if you're looking for freestyle, something like Naked GoPro or an Insta360 Go is also a really good option. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you definitely can do, and there are camera mounts out there now for those types of cameras. So yeah,
and that's another thing I wanted to ask you as well. Where can pilots get the 3D printed? I don't know if you have like the parts themselves that you sell, or do you offer like files for people who have printers to print their own, or how does that work when someone buys your frame and they want to start to put the 3D mounts on for cameras and such?
Sure. So there's loads of stuff on Thingiverse.
Okay.
Just search AOS 5 or AOS 3.5 or whatever the frame is. There's stuff there.
Excellent.
If you don't want to print it yourself, then Brain 3D in the US are doing some great work, coming out with prints for my frames. So you can go and find it there. but yeah. I mean, there's just fantastic 3D prints coming out from lots of pilots in the community for all of these frames. And I do a few myself, but actually most of them are from just really awesome designers in the community.
That must be really cool to like see, like, you know, you've put a lot of work and a lot of time into designing these frames and testing, and to be able to see the community's basically the response, and be able to see people creating, you know, 3D printed mounts for your frames. That's got to feel pretty good, huh? Give you a good feeling that you've done something right for sure.
It's an awesome feeling. It's an awesome feeling. Whenever I release a frame, I sometimes do like a perfect build, or, you know, perfect, my ideal build, what, you know, the build that I would do with it. And I'm like, yeah, this is it. I've done it. This is the one. And then like 2 weeks later, someone posts on like Discord or sends me an email with their build. I'm just like, oh, it's just like, it's so much better. It's so much better. I'm like, oh, they've like done all the nice braiding, and they've got LEDs and like beautiful 3D printed parts.
Yeah. Well, that's nice that you have something to accompany the whole experience of buying the frame. Now you've got videos that they can watch and build to your, basically your specs, your recommendations, to have this flying the best possible way that they can get it to fly. Absolutely.
I don't know of any other manufacturers that actually that actually publish a video explaining the design of the frame and why everything is the way that it is and how it all works. So I think that's another thing that I hope people like about it, is that there's no secrets with an AOS frame. You know, you can watch my video and I'll tell you exactly how and why everything is the way that it is, and why I did it that way, and the benefits that it gives you, rather than, trying to hide it away or cover it up with marketing or anything like that. So I like that part of the process as well.
And I really like how active you are on YouTube with responding to the comments. I've seen, you've done a phenomenal job of answering people's questions, getting back to them in a timely manner. I mean, how do you keep up with all that? I'm sure that has to be challenging at sometimes, right?
Sometimes it is challenging, and it is tricky. It is always tricky to try and get back to people, and I try and help out on like the Facebook groups for people who have tuning issues, and I try and be active on the Discord, and there's a lot of different channels that people ask questions through and send me emails and stuff. But I try and get to as many as I can. That's the goal.
That's awesome, Chris. I'm glad to hear that you've got such an outreach into the community to back your frame and your design. You're out there helping pilots. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah,
well,
let's go ahead and roll into... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, just particularly if people have an AOS frame and they want help tuning it or things like that, I'm always up for helping people with that.
That's awesome. I'll just go ahead and shoot over to your AOS 7. This is one of your newer frames, am I right?
Yeah. This was officially launched on Friday, but I always do. The launches always end up a bit interesting because I send all the data off to Nick at CNC Madness, and it goes up on the website. You never quite know exactly when it's going to go live, and so. That's just something to be aware of. Sometimes you can order the frame early because it goes up. But yeah, this is my 7-inch frame, and I have to preface this by saying I am not a long-range pilot. So this is very much designed for sort of medium range, quite aggressive freestyle, chasing fast-moving targets, that kind of thing.
Oh wow!
That's sort of where it's aimed at, because I'm not a super long range, mountain surfer. But this is, designed to just give you the maximum. Again, it's always the same with my frames. It's the maximum possible flight performance. That's it. So on 7-inch prop in this case, And so this is good for medium to long range cruising, aggressive freestyle, the likes of which you would not normally attempt with a 7-inch. And it's a frame that kind of tries to combine the best of both worlds. And I was actually, there's some neat design features in this that are different from my previous frames. It's got a split arm design so that you can keep the carbon weave aligned with both struts. Gives it additional stiffness. And I was really pleased with how it turned out. The resonance performance of the AOS 7 is as good or better than some premium 5-inch frames. So typically, with 7-inch, you expect it to have more vibration, and I'm happy that the AOS 7 has been able to kind of outperform that expectation, I guess.
And as far as like my experience, when you start getting into the bigger frames and the bigger builds, it seems like the vibrations and things like that tend to get a little bit more amplified, if that's the right word.
Yeah.
So the fact that you've got the AOS 7 here with the lowest resonant characteristics that you can get out of a 7-inch frame, would that be a fair thing to say?
That's the goal. Yeah, that was the design intent, and I think it really does deliver on that.
Absolutely. And I think that's going to be a home run for sure, Chris. A lot of people getting into the long range flying now. The 7-inch size is becoming more and more popular. So that's definitely you hit the nail right on the head there with this build here. I really do like this.
Sure. And there's one more, which is really good that you mentioned long range, because I want to talk about this one.
Yes.
Which is the AOS Falcon 7. So before I said that I wasn't a long range pilot, and I'm not, but this guy is. This frame was not designed by me. This frame was designed by Falconrad FPV, Conrad Falconer.
Okay.
He is a serious long range pilot, like serious,
nice.
like mountain surfing, super long range.
Wow.
And so he designed this frame. So I would say if all you're looking to do is long range, if that's the purpose of the frame, then he has proven this design definitely. And I helped by optimizing the design of the frame for vibration and resonance as much as I could without modifying the intent of his original design. So it's like a Ford Escort Cosworth. Someone's taken a Ford Escort and like done a bit of a hardware tune on it to try and make it as good as it possibly can be. And so this is his design, but just with a few tweaks to make the flight performance as good as it can be.
Yeah, a nice collaboration here. I do like the look of it. It really has a nice stance. I love all the protection for the camera in the front. Very, very nice and well done there.
Yeah, Conrad did a fantastic job with this frame, I think.
So does this frame actually come with all these 3D printed parts shown here?
No, you can buy them. So they're all available, and you can also print them yourself from Thingiverse. But no, the frame kit's just the carbon and the hardware.
Okay. Real quick, I want to welcome in Crystal Justice, Windjumbly FPV, and Vitrifly and EBR FPV. Welcome in, guys and gals. Thank you so much for coming in and hanging out with us tonight. Greatly appreciate that. AOS Falcon 7. I really do like the way that looks. And I see that the front arms, they don't have that triangular design of the other AOS lines, but we do have it in the back.
Yes.
What's the main reason for that, Chris?
So that, as I said, this layout was Conrad Falconer's design, his layout, to get everything where he wanted it to be for his, for where he wanted his cameras to be and how he wanted the layout of the arms. And so there isn't sort of quite the kind of opportunity to put in the kind of the extra truss feature in the front. And so that means that the resonance performance of the Falcon 7 isn't quite as good as the AOS 7, but they're designed for different things. And this is really, an ideal long range platform, I think.
Okay.
Designed by someone who really knows about long range. And so, yeah, I was really keen with this collaboration not to try and mess too much with the original design and layout and structure of the frame, because it really is his design. And basically, compared to him for long range, I'm not qualified. So I wanted to very much stick with his design and just make the changes that I could make to just make that design as good as it could be for vibration and resonance, but sticking with the layout that obviously works so well for him.
Absolutely. Real quick, welcome in Mecca and Kern. I'm sorry if I didn't say your name right, but thank you so much for the super chat. Greatly appreciate that. And we definitely going to get Carlton up in the house dancing. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate your support on the channel. And if you wouldn't mind, Chris, I think he just answered it, but he wants to know what would you say the main differences are between the AOS 7 and the Falcon 7. And if we've already covered that, feel free to just say we've already covered that. So.
No, I think it's good to summarize. So I think the Falcon 7 it's always a trade-off, and I think the Falcon 7 trades off more in the direction of it's a little bit lighter, it's a little bit more kind of optimized for long-range mountain surfing, whereas the AOS 7 is more for that kind of medium range. You can actually aggressively freestyle it, and its freestyle performance is a little bit better than the Falcon 7. So it's just about that trade-off of, if you're wanting more of a long-range cruiser, then the Falcon 7 is definitely for you. And if you look at the type of videos that Conrad Falconer does, you kind of see what the frame is able to do in those situations. It's quite amazing. And then if you're looking for something that you can freestyle really hard and will freestyle as good as a 5-inch, nearly, pretty much as good as a 5-inch, but also is good for doing medium range, even a bit of long range, kind of a frame that can do that whole spectrum, then maybe the AOS 7. So that's what I would say the difference is. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much for answering that, Chris. And guys, we are going to be doing open Q&A towards the end of the stream, so if hold your questions if you can for Chris. If not, we definitely will go ahead and go over the super chats when they do come in. But we're trying to keep it flowing here. That way we can talk and cover everything we have on the stream tonight. We got a lot to unpack. Awesome. So I really do dig the fact that you're actually doing collaborations with FPV pilots in the community to improve upon and work together to make it awesome products. So well done, Chris. Greatly appreciate that.
Thank you.
Welcome in Crunked and Big Fuzzy Arkin. Welcome in. I feel like I'm doing a horrible job with names tonight, so I apologize.
We got some great names.
Yes, we do. We really do. I'm sorry. Vaytre Fly. I'm sorry. I think I butchered his name earlier. Sorry about that. So, we are going to talk about something that you guys are probably going to want to stick around for. But before we get into that, I've got something exciting. I got a giveaway on the stream tonight, and I think I'm getting into the point where I want to go ahead and get that going. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, do it. Let's get some stuff away.
Absolutely. Let's show them what we're going to be giving away tonight. So on the stream tonight, for some lucky winner in the chat, if you haven't won any giveaways previously this month, you're going to be eligible to win if you're in the U.S. Let me show you what we got tonight. We've got a full set of these 2206.5 1900 kV 6S T-Motor V-Locks FPV Crate Booster Edition motors. So you're going to get a full set of these motors here. They come from the FPV Crate, as well as a FPV Crate build mat. Nice, really thick neoprene build mat, very large. you can put on your desk. Make sure you're not scratching up your desk, stuff like that when you're working on your builds. As well as 2 sets of the Ethics candy cane props, 5-inch. So I thought, why not give away some props to go along with them motors, right?
Yeah. They're good
Absolutely.
props as well.
So if you guys in the chat are interested, would like the chance to win this, and you're in the U.S., go ahead and type down in the live chat. Go ahead and type in AOS pick me. We'll do AOS for Chris here. So AOS pick me, and then we're gonna have Chris actually randomly pick the winner. And Chris decided you wanted to do the wheel tonight.
Random wheel, please. Yes.
Random wheel.
Yeah. There's nothing more fair than randomness.
There you go. So we're going to do a random wheel here. Let me get this pulled up in the background. And we got some comments coming in. Thank you guys so much for your support. And just in a second, I'll pull this up. And if you wouldn't mind, once I get this wheels of names pulled up, if you would just give me those names. Can you see the chat, by the way?
I can, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Let me give it a chance to get this all pulled up here. Okay, so let me go ahead and get this put away. Alrighty. Let me clear out all these other people that were in here. I forgot that it actually saves everything from the last time I used it on here. Okay, Chris, whenever you're ready, I'll start putting them in.
Okay, Big Fuzzy Archon.
Okay, so we'll do Big Fuzzy for short.
Andy Taylor.
Andy Taylor. Got it.
Mike B.
Mike B. Got it.
Corey Gamble.
Corey G. Yep.
Vitrifly.
Okay.
Ron Vaccaro.
Ron V.
Crunked.
Okay.
Deadeye FPV. Crystal
Okay.
Justice.
Okay.
Mike Hrenak.
Mike, what was that last name, Chris?
Mike H. Mike
Mike
Hrenak.
H. Okay. Mike H. Yep.
Technique FPV.
Technique.
Steve E.
Stevie. Okay.
Drone Shots.
Drone Shots. Wow. Nice full wheel.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's awesome.
Is anyone else who, like?
I'll take a look here.
Yeah, type in the comments quickly if I missed you.
Yeah, we'll give you guys another couple of minutes. If you were interested to win the giveaway of the 4 T-motors and a build mat and some candy cane props, type it in the comment section once. AOS pick me.
We got Tom's Lazy.
Okay, he forgot the AOS, but that's okay. We know what he
right.
meant. We know what he meant. That was Tom's. Okay. Oh, Tommes. I'm sorry. Tommees. There we go. Okay. Make sure we got everybody. I think we do. Oh, we got Kevin. Okay. Got you, Kevin.
FPV. All right. That's cool.
We got Tasha. Still coming in. Still coming in. You gotta forgive my lag on my stream sometimes, guys. Just hang in there with me. Okay, we got Tasha. Anybody else before we close it out? Give you another minute or two. I think that's probably going to be it.
That's a good full wheel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Deal or no deal. That's great. All right. While we wait, I'm just going to give another minute, just if anybody was just hopping on. But real quick, wanted to go ahead and give a couple shout outs. Make sure tonight at 9. Sorry about that. I put the wrong one up here. My fault. Okay. Tonight at 9 p.m., make sure you check out Optimized Drone and Gank Multi-Rotors. Make sure you check those guys out. They'll be going live tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Great group over there. We're actually just recently sponsored my best friend to be a sponsored pilot, and we have agreed to do a co-sponsorship between my eDrone channel and Team Optimize. So great stuff. Very exciting group of guys over there. Have a big heart for this community and helping one another. I highly recommend checking these guys out. Great group of guys over there. Also, on Friday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, check out the Drone Network, MD95TSI Crystal Justice, live streams at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And on every other Wednesday, when the kids are asleep, check out the FPV Noob Tube for some adult good FPV fun shenanigans. Go hang out over there. Show some love over there as well. Okay, now that I've got all my shout-outs out of the way, let me get back to the chat here. Anybody come in? Anybody come in after?
So I think you're safe.
Okay, guys, it's going to be that time. Let me change the banner up. It's giveaway time. We're going to choose a winner here, completely random. Go ahead and get this going. Good luck to everybody. Congratulations to Technique FPV. You have just won the giveaway tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for entering in to win and all your support. Greatly appreciate it. Technique, if you could just shoot me an email at emarvel09@gmail.com. I will, with your shipping information, I will get that shipped out to you this week. Greatly appreciate it, guys. Awesome, Chris. I really like that you did the random. That's good stuff.
I don't want to be accused of favoritism.
That's right. That's right. You can't. Hey, when you do it with the random wheel of names, the wheel of names, it is what it is, right? It's going to choose it's what it chooses. Yeah. So congratulations, and thank you guys, everybody that entered in. And we're going to be doing more giveaways on my live streams. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you smash that like button and click that bell icon so you get notified first when I put out new content. And make sure you check out Chris Rosser. Link is in the video description for Chris's channel. Doing some amazing things over there. Doing some awesome testing, frame design. Greatly getting involved in the community. Trying to help you guys, his supporters, his followers. Great channel. Highly recommend.
Thanks very much. Yeah, always keen to get some feedback on what people want to see in new videos as well. So, yeah, let me know.
Absolutely. Real quick, welcome in Dan Richmond, KD2RDH Larry, Wakey RC. How you doing, Paul? Mike B, a.k.a. the Drone Ranger, and Mystery D. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Glad to see you. All right. Now, let's get to the good stuff, so to speak. Let me get the banner changed back over here. So, there's a little bit of a elephant in the room, so to speak. Mr. Steele FPV, who we all highly respect, his opinion and his presence in the FPV community. He's been an icon for so long. He recently actually put out a video where he got to see and put his hands on AOS 5 frame, Chris Rosser's frame, and he had some interesting things to say about it. Coming from, he did mention in the video that he had not watched any videos about the frame, so this was strictly off the cuff. This was a off the cuff, basically kind of opinions, review of the frame as he saw it, as he handled it, looked at it, inspected it, flew it, and had some very interesting things to say, and some questions were raised. So, what would you like to talk about first? Because there was a lot to unpack on that video. He did have a lot of questions, a lot of comments about the frame. Let's start out with, he did say it looks like you have a whole bunch of extra screws. It looks like it would be a little difficult to take out the arms over a convention, over some of his frames that he uses, Impulse RC. You want to go ahead and jump into that one, Chris?
Yeah, so I guess I start just by saying that I appreciate Steele taking the time to fly the frame and to take a look at it and give his feedback, because he doesn't have to do that.
Right.
If someone comes up to him when he's flying and they say, I've got this frame and I want you to try it out. So the fact that he took the time to fly it and then really look at it and give some feedback, got to appreciate that. So I thank him for that, and all feedback is good feedback for me. In terms of the screw thing, I think whenever you look at these type of videos, you have to think of like the context in which it was in, right? Which is like someone comes up to you, they give you a frame you've never seen before, and you fly it one time, and you have to kind of give some feedback. You want to give some constructive feedback on it. And so some of the things he said I think were fair feedback, fair comments. And other bits, were just maybe a little bit inaccurate because it's just the first time you're seeing something. You haven't had any time to do any research or anything like that. So, regarding the screw number and things, I think obviously very fair comment that we want our quads to be as simple to assemble, disassemble, repair as possible, because crashing is part of the hobby, and having to repair and replace stuff. So I try and make the frames as easy to repair as possible. So it's just 2 screws to swap an arm, and all of the arms are the same. So even though the frame looks kind of quite a complex geometry, all the 4 arms are the same. So it makes it, you only need to have 1 spare arm, and you can replace any of them. And then the total number of screws in the frame is 16 screws for the frame. So there's 8 on the top plate, 8 on the bottom plate, and I think that's a pretty good number. It's 4 less screws than an Apex.
Okay.
So it's 4 fewer than an Apex. But then the Apex is known to be quite a sophisticated frame in its design, so it has more more hardware than some other frames.
Okay. And your arms, to remove an arm, let's say you did, someone was flying it and they did happen to break an arm. Mm-hmm. How many screws are required to be removed to be able to swap out an arm in the field?
Just 2. Yeah,
2 screws. Okay. And the Apex is 2 screws as well, as far as I know, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, I think that's the same. Yeah.
Okay. So we've still got the 2 screws to remove the arm. And the arm comes in that shape as all in one piece, correct? So it's not like there's extra screws that actually hold on the extra brace. It's all one piece.
It's all one piece for the AOS 5, 5.5, and 3.5. The AOS 7 is actually a 2-piece arm, and it's held together by the motor screws.
Okay.
So
now let's talk a little bit about. He did make some valid points about you can have a frame that is perfect resonance through black box logging and things like that to make it fly as best as it possibly can. But what good does that do if someone puts together the frame, slaps on an antenna and some zip ties, and doesn't really take the time to follow your step-by-step guide and do the build as you have on your channel? Do the benefits kind of outweigh anything there, or how would you approach something like that? Because at that point, is this frame just like any other frame because someone is not actually building it up the way it's designed to be built up?
So not to put words in Mr. Steele's mouth here, but I think we're on the same page with this, because Steele tunes his frame very aggressively, and this is something on that JB commented on when he flew the Steele build, was that it was tuned really tight with very high PID gains, and that's actually the same approach that I would recommend to get the best flight performance out of it. And that's why the Steele build with Steele tune, you do find the motors get hot, and because the tune is so tight. And so I think that he definitely appreciates the need to push the tune as far as you can, in order to get the best flight performance, to give you the most confidence to do the amazing flying that he does.
Absolutely.
And the AOS 5 is totally aligned with that. That's the whole purpose of it.
Absolutely. And Mr. Steele made some valid points about the USB dongle. Is that required to have that dongle, Chris, or is there ways to build without using the dongle?
Oh no, you don't need the dongle. I'm not sure why it's on that particular build. Maybe it's just the pilot's preference to have it.
Okay.
But no, you can plug a USB cable in to the flight controller very easily. Yeah, it's no issue.
So the dongle is not required to be able to build upon this frame and hook to your micro USB. It just depends how you build it up and your orientation with the stack, and do you mount it in the back or do you mount it in the front, and how you actually built it up as a pilot, because not everybody always builds it with the orientation with the arrow facing straight ahead. Some may turn the boards, some may flip the boards upside down. There's all kinds of different orientations that people can build these frames up.
Sure. So I mean, as long as you have the USB on the side rather than in the front or the back, whether it's upside down or not, doesn't matter. You'll be able to plug a normal USB cable into it, no problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's. I think it's probably just the pilot's preference to have it at a different orientation, just so that it's how he wants to plug it in, which is absolutely fine, but certainly not required. No.
Okay. Ron does make a good point. He said in the video he thinks the guy does mention that the quadcopter it had not been tuned, and that's kind of the whole point of the frame. You would want to, with a frame like this, the advantages to using it is the lower resonance characteristics to travel to get through your flight controller, so that you can kind of push the limits a little bit further when it comes to the PID tuning and the filtering.
Yeah. Exactly right. So all of my frames fly great on stock PIDs. I saw a question earlier about that. Yeah, they all fly great on Betaflight stock PIDs. They really come into their own when you start pushing the tune further. And if you want to follow along to my tuning guide or UAV Tech Mark Spatz's tuning guide, you will be able to go further with. I believe that you will be able to go further with an AOS frame than you would with any other frame, and that's the whole purpose of it. And I hope that by allowing people to push the tune further, again, it's just going to give them that better flight experience. And
AA makes a valid point. He does say that Mr. Steele did state that it flew just as expected for many other, which I would take as a compliment, because we all know that if it didn't fly good, he would have said this thing's flying like crap. It's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. But he didn't say that. He said this is what it's. I'm not surprised. It's flying just like any other quad I've flown. Well, I take that as a compliment. I don't know how you take it, but I take that.
Yeah,
I would take that as a compliment.
He flies, top quality hardware, doesn't he? So if it's flying like that on a stock tune, then I'm thrilled with that. And if he was to take that frame and tune it the way that he tunes his builds that he flies, then I'm confident he would find it to fly even so much better than what he experienced when he flew it on the stock tune.
Okay. And like I said, guys, both Chris and myself have a lot of respect for Mr. Steele in the hobby, and Chris has the outlook that he's going to take the feedback that he got from Mr. Steele, and he's going to make improvements and tweaks and change things along the way. So what are some of the things based on that video when you watched it? What are some of the things that you would change just going off of Mr. Steele's inputs only?
Just off Mr. Steele's input, I think to keep working on trying to make the frame as simple to build and maintain as possible. So keeping the number of screws really minimal, making the frame slot together in a really easy way. A lot of people they don't find that they need like a build guide or an instruction manual to put an AOS frame together, because there's kind of only really one way in which all the parts fit. So yeah, really taking that to heart. And also as well, the other feedback I think is that having a great platform, having a great frame to start with, is not the whole battle with getting a really great tune. There's also that process of giving people the understanding and the knowledge and the tools to be able to take that frame and tune it all the way. And so that's also something that I'm keen to work on, is to keep putting out the videos, like the PID tuning videos, to really help people get the most out of not just AOS frames, but any frame, because I think that's, as people get more comfortable with tuning and they realize that tuning doesn't have to be this whole thing. It doesn't have to be super complicated. It can literally be just like moving a couple of sliders and suddenly things can get a whole lot better. If we can get everyone doing a little bit of tuning, people will be having a lot more fun because the quads will fly a lot better.
And I really love your deep dives, and I feel like I learned so much just from watching the way you break everything down and the way it's presented. And I really do enjoy that. And guys, you got to check out Chris Rosser's channel for sure, because he's got a lot of great stuff going on and tons to learn. I feel like that's the great thing with this hobby, and I think, Chris, you'll agree, it just feels like you never stop learning. Like there's never a point where you've figured everything out and there's nothing else to learn with this hobby. Would that be a fair thing to say?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, you can go as deep into it as you want. And I mean, recently I've absolutely gone down the rabbit hole on like FPV video systems and looking at the latency and how you test it, and covering ground that other people have obviously covered before, but trying to do it. I did it with a high-speed camera, so you can actually see how the screen is updating and all of this stuff. And then explaining how analog video versus SharkBite versus DJI, how those different video systems work under the hood, and what that information tells us about how they're going to perform when you're flying them. So, you can understand which video system is going to be the best for you. And so, yeah, keep going into that has been really fun for me. And I've always been surprised with how much, complexity and detail there is to go into that.
Speaking of SharkBite and all, your interview with Carl Zhao, the inventor of the HD Zero technology, I feel like you knocked that one out of the park, Chris. Really well done. That interview, I think we can all learn so much about Carl and the company and where it's heading. How did that feel to be the first one to interview, to put a face to the legendary Carl Zhao, who has been a tremendous supporter in the community for the HD Zero and the SharkBite system?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it was a great honor. Fantastic to be able to interview him, and he's just been so helpful. I mean, my entire video, it's all started with wanting to do this deep dive on how all the different video systems work, and so I did analog because there's lots of information about that. And then I did DJI, and there's some information about that, but a lot of it I kind of had to kind of work out based on what I understood about how the system performed. And then with the SharkBite, with the HD Zero, Carl was just like, yeah, you can just add me on Messenger and then ask me anything you want to know, and And he not only did he answer a load of questions that I had to help me put together this whole deep dive on how HD0 actually works from the camera lens to the goggles, to the goggle screen. He then read through the whole content and like fact checked it to make sure that it was right.
Wow.
And yeah, so that was unbelievable. That was awesome. And then to agree to do an interview, have to thank Blunty. It's Blunty for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, would love to see an interview. And I was like, well, I've got to ask, right? I've got to ask. And
guys, to see the full interview with Chris Rosser and Carl Zhao, the inventor of the HD0 technology for SharkBite, go over to Chris Rosser's channel, check it out. He's got the interview on his channel, and give it a watch. It really is a lot of great information, and you can learn so much about how the whole process came to be about and his background and where he needs help in certain areas, and it's a really, really great interview. I don't want to spoil too much. I want them to go see your channel, but really did enjoy that interview, Chris. Very well done.
Hopefully while they're there, they hit subscribe as well, just...
Yes, make sure you subscribe, smash that like button for him, guys. Let's show Chris some support. He's been putting a ton of time and effort into helping to educate the FPV community on how these systems are working and taking these really deep dives and doing some excellent frame design and manufacturing and backing that up as well with the support. So greatly appreciate that. Well, Chris, I think I'm going to go ahead and open it up for Q&A. Everybody's been waiting very patiently. I know we have a lot of questions to get to. So let me go ahead and open up the Q&A if that's okay with you.
That's great. Yeah, bring it on.
All right, we'll get right into it here. Guys, Q&A is open for Chris Rosser, myself, and chat. You guys have any questions for Chris, myself, please go ahead and put it down in the live chat, and we will get to them one at a time the best we can. Okay, Double A is first up. Can you see that, Chris?
Yeah. So how much of a difference or problems do you see from a unibody versus replaceable arms? Yeah, that's a good question. From a vibration standpoint, there's not really any comparison. Separate arms are much better from a vibration perspective than unibodies. And that's because wherever you have a joint, wherever you have two pieces of carbon, when the frame is vibrating, those two pieces of carbon microscopically rub against each other. And they only move a few microns, so you would not be able to see it. But that dissipates vibrational energy as friction, as heat. So that's why replaceable arms always have better vibration performance than an equivalent unibody. Also, I think replaceable arms are more they're more repairable, which I think is a big thing for a lot of people. Arms are things that commonly break, and even if you've got a spare bottom plate to put on, it's a big job to swap everything over. Whereas if you've got a replaceable arm, it's you take the motor off, you undo the screws, you take the arm off, put a new arm in, and then you can be up and running again in 5-10 minutes. And you can't do that with a unibody.
Absolutely. Let's see. Mr. J's RC says, where does Chris live?
Cambridge, UK.
Cambridge, UK. Excellent. Hey, thank you guys so much for stopping in, Jim and Chris. Greatly appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. We're so glad you came in and showed that support. Make sure we have any other questions pop up for Chris or myself. I actually have a question for you, Chris. Obviously, when I first started in FPV was probably 4 or 5 years ago, similar to the time that you got started, I think. I noticed that back then like you said, the frame, the way you built the frame, and the amount of vibrations and soft mounting motors, it was a really big deal because the software side of things, the filtering, just wasn't at the level that it's at today. With that being said, how important do you think it is now with some of the software filtering that you've seen? How important is it today to have a super clean build? Is soft mounting motors even necessary anymore, or is it just complete rubbish?
Well, so the soft mounting motor is an interesting one. And the thing about the soft mounting motors and putting in a layer of rubber or electrical tape or whatever is I've done quite a lot of experimentation on this, and sometimes it makes things better, and sometimes it makes things worse.
Ah,
And it's really difficult to know beforehand which is going to be for a particular frame and a particular build. So it's always something people can try. If you're looking for a solution that really does work to reduce vibration on all builds, vibration, mechanical damping grease is my go-to.
oh,
So you can get, I did a video on this, and it's been mentioned in a few places. You can get like a Nia gel, like a PG44A or a 767A, which is this mechanical damping grease. And it's designed to dissipate vibration. And so that works so much better and more consistently than electrical tape or thin bits of rubber or things like that.
okay, great information.
Because it's fluid, it's liquid, so it has no spring. So the problem with the electrical tape and the rubber and stuff is they have spring as well as damping, whereas the grease is just damping. There's no spring at all.
That makes sense.
That's the goal, yeah.
Does make sense. Excellent information. Mr. J's RC says, is Chris an Anthony Joshua fan?
I don't follow boxing that closely. I must be honest.
Okay.
I am an absolutely massive nerd, and my sport of choice is StarCraft 2, which I don't know if anyone in the chat knows about that. It's a Korean esport.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah, it's pretty niche, but yeah, that's my sport of choice. So StarCraft 2, it's about the nerdiest thing you could imagine, I think.
I think we're all a little bit nerds at heart in some way or form in this hobby, for sure.
Yeah, I think
There's been little things that have come about, and we've just been like so excited about the most minute little thing when it comes to the something techie with the hobby. So I definitely can understand that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mecca, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time with the name. Mecca asks, Chris, Mechanican, there we go, Mechanican. Chris, is Niagel?
Yeah, Niagel 767.
Niagel.
Yeah. Is it worth it, or is it mostly a theoretical benefit? It's definitely visible in the black box logs. So you can see that adding the grease makes the peaks of your vibration much lower. So as for whether that's a practical benefit for you, the question is, are you at a point with your tune where you can't go any further because you're getting D-term oscillations because of the vibration? If you're at that point, then adding the grease will let you go further, and then the quad will fly even better. So if you're not there, if you're still flying stock because you're just happy and the quad's flying great, if you're not at the limit, then no, it won't give you any benefit, because you have to take that benefit. You have to take it by pushing the tune further, right? Otherwise,
right.
It's just, you're putting a V8 engine in your car, but you're still only going 30 miles an hour. It's like you've got the extra power, but you're not using it. So it's the same thing. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Drone 3 Droid asks, any plans for an AOS X10?
That would be a monster. I'm currently working on the AOS 8x8.
Okay.
So you can see if you can figure out what that frame's going to be.
There you go. Oh, I almost forgot, Chris. Didn't you have something you wanted to show? A sneak peek at what's coming up?
Oh, yeah. So
I almost forgot that.
So
let me blow you up here.
We don't want to forget this. So this is the AOS 5R. Actually, this is the AOS 5R
racing frame.
It's a racing frame, yeah.
Excellent.
And it's a pretty traditional frame, apart from one part of it, which is the arm. This is a custom layup, a custom carbon fiber layup. It optimized structure that I developed based on simulation and testing, and it is 20% stiffer and stronger than standard layup when used in an arm like this. So you get 20% more stiffness, 20% more strength for no extra weight. So it's doing what I think has been talked about a lot with carbon fiber, is you can orientate the weave of the carbon fiber to get more performance in certain directions. And so I've just done that for the arm. I've optimized it so that it's got the maximum strength and stiffness in the directions that you care about.
Okay.
And so I don't think it's ever been done on an FPV frame before.
Very
So
interesting.
I'm excited for that. Had to go all the way back to, this goes back to the company that manufactures the carbon fiber in China. When they're laying up the individual sheets, they pull down each sheet one at a time. And so you can control the orientation of every sheet. And so that's what I've done. It's all based off simulation. So yeah, this is the first frame that's going to be using this optimized layup. And yeah, AOS 5R coming soon.
Very exciting stuff, Chris. Very well done. Okay, we also have a question here from 80 Inca in Brazil. I'm so sorry for the names, guys. I'm trying. The 5 million ASIC chip is the reason why there are no DJI clones. Is that the only reason, in your honest opinion?
Yeah. So I have a bit more of a background in this, because I now work for a startup that makes MEMS flow sensors, so silicon chips that measure flow. That's my current job. And yes, it's the ASIC. So an ASIC, an application-specific integrated circuit, is like a custom-designed chip that's just designed to do one thing really, really well. And it's just the best kind of IP you can have nowadays. It's impossible to reverse engineer. It's impossible to copy. And if you know how to make it, you can decide who uses it. It's a physical thing. It's not like software. It can't be pirated or copied, because it's a physical hardware part. So it's the best kind of IP that you can have. And DJI have spent an enormous amount of money, millions of dollars, 5 million is a conservative estimate, to develop this ASIC. And now that they have it, they can use it in all their products, and they can decide who they sell it to. And without that ASIC, you cannot do the DJI system. It's impossible unless you were to develop either another ASIC or maybe an FPGA, which is what the OpenHD team is working on, is getting a different ASIC to do the similar job. And that, I think, is what really surprised me about digital FPV, is how technologically difficult it is to do it. Low latency HD video transmission is really, really freaking hard, and you need custom silicon to make it happen. And if you don't have, that's why Sharkbite is an HD0 is so impressive, because they've done the same thing. They've got a custom ASIC to do their video encoding and transmission, because it's the only way you can do it. And even like going back to analog video, all the analog VTXs use the same rich wave chipset, the same silicon chipset. So yeah, it all comes back to this specific bespoke electronics that can't be copied, can't be replicated, unless someone redesigns it from scratch.
I think that kind of adds to the whole, like, more personalized experience, with depending on which route you go, which company you go with. They're heading in different directions for the same goal, but they have different ways of getting you there. And I think that's really exciting, that it's not just like, oh yeah, everybody's using the same technology and everybody's doing the same thing. And so I think it's neat that there's different ways that they're handling how we're actually accomplishing what you said is a extremely difficult goal. It was even said, I think probably before DJI came out with the HD digital system, that we would probably not see HD and FPV for live feed for probably a decade. and the fact that it's here now and it's working and it's getting better and better, to me, is mind blowing.
Yeah, and this is the thing, is that when people said it was impossible, they were completely right if they had added without custom silicon. And that custom silicon, because of the big development cost, 5 million in development, and that's probably before you even make any. And it costs a lot to start making them. Is a big barrier to entry. And that's why big companies love it. That's why Apple does custom silicon, why all the big chip makers, AMD, Intel, NVIDIA, they all do their own silicon, because it's such a high barrier to entry to get up there. And why there are so few suppliers of like CPUs and GPUs, because it's super hard to make them and they can't be copied and replicated. So the only way we're going to see another HD system with equivalent performance to SharkBite or DJI is if another company or another group of individuals finds another ASIC or makes another ASIC or an FPGA to do that job.
So they're going to have to work hard. They're going to have to work hard for it.
It's really hard. And then once they've done that, like DJI with this chipset, it's a license to print money. No one can copy it. No one can replicate it. No one can use it unless you sell them the chips. And if you choose not to, then no one can do it.
Very nice. Burke 3D says, do you know of any Cinelifters using the grease for vibration mitigation? And does it have the same benefit that we see on the smaller drones?
I think there was one guy who was flying a Sicario in the UK who was trying out the grease. So I think it's starting to get there, to get in there. And I haven't seen any black box logs, but theoretically, yes, it will have just the same benefit. In fact, maybe even more with larger frames, because as you get bigger, the vibrational amplitude gets bigger. And with more vibrational amplitude comes more movement, which means more dissipation in the grease. So it could actually work even better on big drones. And for tiny drones, it's probably less important. I would say that, once you start getting up to kind of a 5-inch size, that's when the grease really starts to come into its own. And I reckon it only gets more potent the bigger the drone.
Okay. Excellent. And then asks again, why are the ASIC chips so expensive?
They take a very long time to develop and a lot of engineering effort to develop. And there's no rapid prototyping for ASICs. So if you want to get an ASIC now, let's say, Eric, you're gonna make a custom ASIC. So you're gonna go to a foundry like TSMC and you're gonna say, I want a chip. And they're gonna go, great, we'll make you a chip. It's gonna be a year from when you order it.
Wow.
Before you get your first one. And that's just the chip, right? That's not the package. It's just the silicon. So you need to go and put that chip in a plastic package so that you can solder it onto a board, right? That's not, TSMC are not going to do that for you. So you have to go somewhere else. So you go to another company and you say, yeah, I want you to package my chip for me. There's lots of places that do it in Taiwan. And they'll go, yeah, great. So you get us the chips, and then it's going to be 16 weeks until you've got it.
Wow.
So that's one prototyping cycle to try the thing out, right? So you're going to have to do a few of those. And it's all phenomenally expensive. I mean, just one wafer is like tens of thousands of dollars. And then the packaging is tens of thousands. It's just, the numbers are crazy. So you have to invest a huge amount of money up front, which you give to other companies to make the prototypes for you.
And then with the chip shortage in general, I'm sure that doesn't help things at all.
Sorry?
With the chip shortage that's been going on because of the COVID and the fires and
yes, yeah,
all that doesn't make anything any better either.
No. And so you've invested this enormous amount of very specialized engineering effort up front to develop the design of your ASIC. And then you've gone through several prototyping cycles. It's taken you years, and you've spent millions of dollars. And
Wow.
then you have the thing, right? The chip. And the great thing about silicon is once you have the chip, you can make lots of them, and then they're not that expensive per chip. Tens of dollars probably.
It's the startup that's the difficult part.
And that's why custom silicon is kind of, it's very difficult for small companies. And that's why big companies like it so much, because it's just a lot of money and time. And if you're a big company, you've got money and time. So why not invest it? And then you get something that no one else can copy and replicate, and that you can use for literally decades in some cases.
Wow.
And no one can
touch you. It gives you some big, huge advantages.
Yeah. And then even better, you can license it to your competitors and they can pay you to use it.
There you go. Ron Vaccaro asks, how old are you, Chris?
I am 29 years old.
Wow. Really? 29? I was going to say younger.
I've got the gray hairs to prove it.
There you go. Awesome. Let me make sure I've got all the questions here. Q&A is open, guys. Any questions for Chris? Now is the time. Hey, thank you so much for the sub for Chris, John. And yes, absolutely. Thanks for stopping by. Greatly appreciate you.
Thank you for the sub as well. Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you show Chris some love. The link to his channel is in the video description. Make sure you check out Chris Rosser. He's got some great things going on over at his channel. And make sure you smash that like button, guys. We need to get that algorithm up. Greatly appreciate that. Mecha Incurn asks again, what points would you add grease to?
Cool. So yeah, the most important parts are where the arms join the body. So I don't know if you can flip this over.
I got you blown
where
up.
Where the arm is joining the body. That's where you're going to want to add the grease. That's the first place. Second place is under the motor. That helps too. And then if you want to take it to the next level, I use it on all the screws as like a thread lock. Because unlike thread lock, it never dries and it never seizes. So you can add it to the screw threads, and then it will give you a little bit of damping in that joint, which is helpful. And also will make sure your screws never come out. And also, if you do ever take a screw out and put it back in, you don't need to reapply the grease because it stays there. So then you kind of have that benefit.
Awesome, Chris. D Menace asked, 8-inch, 8 motors?
Yeah, spot on.
Okay. 8-inch.
AOS 8x8, yeah. 8-inch, 8 motors. It's a cine lifter.
Nice. See if we have 8x8 sold. Yeah, I want it. I need it. There you go. You got some support in the chat here for that for sure.
It's going to be a bit of a project because that's a big frame. But the prototyping is nearly done, so we're on the way.
Excellent. D353RT basically made a comment here. It says 5 million seems vastly too low for a custom ASIC. He'd multiply that by 5 at least.
I mean, it really depends on the complexity of the ASIC. You know, if it's like a CPU, like it's hundreds of millions probably. If it's a simple ASIC that just has to do a very simple task, then a couple of $1 million is probably about where you're at. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how complex that DJI ASIC is, how many cycles they had to take to get it right. You know, if you get it right first time, it's going to be cheap, but you won't get it right first time. So how many times do you have to go around that loop until you get it right? Because every time is probably another $1 million.
Wow. So you got to have some money behind you and some time to wait for it to be created. And wow. Let's see. That was a good one. Dip the whole thing in grease. She'll slide, right?
Yeah, I
Let's
mean
see.
it works. It really works, and the grease is even anti-corrosion and water repellent. So
Oh,
it's got everything going for it. You can smother it all over your flight controller, and then it won't short out.
there you go. There's multiple benefits.
Multiple benefits, multi-purpose.
Mystery D asks, and this is a good question. Question for Chris: thoughts on Emu Flight?
Yeah, emu flight is cool. Kalman filters are really cool. In fact, any kind of predictive filtering is really cool. You know, if you could, because you can theoretically produce filters with negative delay, where they know what the quad is going to do before it actually happens, and so you can get some really impressive performance from that. I am going to be digging into emu flight. It's on my list.
That's awesome.
My plan currently is to wait for 1.0.
Okay.
Because they're going to do a big merge with a lot of the changes from 4.3. And so I'll probably do a big series on Betaflight 4.3, EmuFlight 1.0, because there'll be some common things there which will be the same. And then definitely going to do a deep dive on explaining how Kalman filters work and how you should set them up so you get the best possible performance.
Absolutely, guys. If you want to stay tuned for that, Chris has got some exciting things coming on his channel. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell icon. You get notified first when Chris puts out some new content. He says, back in the day, they were using tape under the motors. Yes, sir. Whatever you could put under there to get it to kind of dampen those vibrations a little bit.
Yeah. Tape sometimes works. Sometimes it makes things better. Sometimes it makes things worse. But the grease always makes things better and is usually better than tape. So I would say if you kind of were interested in using tape, you can try the tape. I mean, it's either going to make things better or make things worse. It's like a coin flip. But then if you want to try the grease, that will be better than the tape, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Welcome in, Shea Sonnenberg. Thank you for coming in. Asked, did you try iNav? Thoughts?
There's a great story in this. So I did try iNav, and it's not iNav's fault, but it was responsible for the worst FPV flying experience I've ever had.
Really?
So I had to, as part of my job, we wanted to get some data from a fixed wing drone, and so I built a fixed wing, 1.2 meter wingspan, like a flying wing, and I put iNav on it, and I got it. I got it all configured correctly, and I had never flown a fixed wing before. I had only ever flown quads. And for those of some of you are going to be like, "Oh yeah, you know what you're in for." I was just not prepared for how much a fixed wing moves in the air when you don't tell it to do anything. A quad is quite steady. And this fixed wing was all over the place with the turbulence. There was a bit of wind, and also how long it takes to react to the sticks. It takes sort of quite a while for it to bank and turn. And it's nothing like a quad, which responds really fast. And so, oh my goodness, I was just not prepared at all. And and also the fact that it's foam. It's all foam, so if you crash it, it's just going to explode.
Oh yeah, they do, and they will.
So that was just the most stressful FPV flying experience that I've ever had. And even launching the thing. I mean, it's the wingspan was trying to launch it. I mean, oh goodness.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like a very challenging situation.
It was, but yeah, iNav's fantastic if you're looking for doing more of that long range stuff or a bit more of that autonomous stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Nold FPV asks, and this is a good one. How often does Chris get to fly FPV or fly anything for that matter?
Well, this is the thing, because there was a whole rumor going around that I don't fly drones.
Oh, really?
All of the videos that I put out of flying drones is not me flying; it's someone else.
Wow.
So I don't want to stoke those rumors by telling you guys how much I actually fly FPV.
And there you go.
So you decide for yourself if it's actually me flying the drones or whether it's all an act and I only tune and never fly.
I know that's been one of the most challenging things for myself personally is just finding the time to fly with working full time and taking care of your family. Sometimes it's hard to find that time, and then when I finally do get time, I'm just like pack after pack after pack, like
Oh
oh
yeah,
finally I'm out here and I can get out here and do some flying and just eat it up.
yeah. It's also weird when you're because I'm doing actually quite a lot of flying recently with the the prototype frames that I'm developing. So it's not like flying the frame that I'm used to flying.
Oh, okay.
It's always something different, new. Uh, Sometimes the prototypes that I'm flying have issues, um, and so I was really happy today to just I took my AOS 5 out. The build that I did, the my favorite build with it, and I just ripped it, and it was amazing. And it's actually been the first time in quite a while that I have flown something that is completely sorted out with no issues at all. There's no problems, and the tune is just exactly how I want it. And so yeah, I absolutely love that, and I promised myself I'm going to do more,
And
more
that,
of
and
that.
that and that flight was mainly for you, right? I mean, it's not like you were
All for me.
testing anything really. You were just like, okay, I'm ready to fly and just fly for me. You weren't probably worried about like. I mean, obviously you were probably recording, but your sole purpose wasn't, oh, I got to get this video. Your sole purpose
Yeah,
was, I'm ready to get out. I got the time. Let me go fly, and it was a great flight, and that's awesome. Glad to hear that.
yeah, and I didn't record, and I didn't
Oh,
black box log.
there you see. There you go. And I'm sure that was probably difficult for you to do. If am I right? To just
Well,
just kind of get
it
out
was
and just
different.
fly and don't think about any of the tuning parts of it and all that.
No, no, and that's the nice thing. I mean, that frame is the tune is just nailed. Like, there's
Just
just
spot
nothing.
on.
There's nothing that I want to change ever on that frame. I want to fly it just like that, and I'm not going to ever touch it again
There you go.
because I just love it. I just love it.
He says, Chris, doesn't iNav use common filters also?
I don't know.
I don't
I
know
don't
either.
know. Maybe.
I have never used iNav personally, so I couldn't tell you. But anybody in chat, feel free to answer this question. If you use iNav, and if you know if iNav uses the common filters as well.
Yeah. Let me know because I'd like to know.
Yeah. D353RT says, was it even more stressful than flying an FPV for the first time?
Oh, the wing.
Uh huh.
Uh, yes. Yes, because in addition to having a foam wing, I also had quite a lot of my company's prototype electronics on it.
Oh, wow.
So it was like it would have been a career limiting move to stuff it.
Yeah, really. Hey, welcome in, Steve E. Welcome in. Stevie asked, Chris, thanks for the work you've put in. Yes, thank you so much, Chris, for all the work you have put into the community. Currently building the AOS 5.5 and
Okay.
wonder if you are leaning towards any particular brand of electronics like the flight controller, example iFlight, or even Maytech.
Yeah. So I picked the iFlight Success D Twingy for that build um, because I've had just really good experiences with iFlight electronics.
Yeah.
They just seem very. Some people have said, oh, I had one and it blew up, but I've never had one fail, and I've been through at least 10 full stacks of iFlight, ESC, and flight controllers, and I've not had any failures. So yeah, I kind of feel like I trust them. I trust them. But I would say any sort of reputable brand flight controller, I would go with an F7, and I would make sure that it has black box, either an SD card or like at least 16 mega flash.
Okay. Good information.
That would be my pick.
Okay. We have another question here from Adienka in Brazil. In your interview with Carl, he said that the HD VTX is where the opportunity lies. when it comes to the DJI competition. Can you elaborate on that further?
Yeah. So the it is the kind of the VTX, which is the big opportunity, because people tend to buy more VTXs than they buy goggles.
Uh-huh.
And HD Zero is a chip company, so they're not really interested in making VTXs. They would much rather make the chip and then have someone else buy the chip from them and put it on a VTX. That's how they want to work.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's worth kind of really drilling in to what that means, because there's another company that works the same way, and it's called Richwave. And Richwave make the chips that are in every single analog VTX that you can buy, as far as I know. So it's all the different manufacturers, TBS, Rush.
Where they've already basically they've already got a grasp on the design and build of the video transmitters. They would just have to work around the chip to design the new HD video transmitters to go with what Carl's doing, and be able to use that technology and put it on a more wide scale.
Exactly. So it's different from DJI, because DJI won't sell you their chips if you ask them. So you can't make a DJI VTX if you're TBS or Rush, because you go to DJI and you go, well, I need the chip. And DJI will go, no, we only sell that to Cadex.
Right.
And you'll go, oh, okay. But with HD Zero, you want to make a SharkBite VTX. You go to HD Zero and you say, can I have the chip? And they go, absolutely. Here you go. And then if Rush come along and go, I'd like to make a SharkBite VTX as well, can I buy the chip? And you go, yes. So it's a much more open system, right? It's just like the system we have with analog video right now. There's a company that makes the chips, and everyone buys the chips and then makes the VTXs. And we can have the same thing with SharkBite.
And that, I think that would only help the community in the aspect of, you have more companies that are now using the technology and making the video transmitters, trying to keep their prices competitive, because obviously they want you to buy their VTX with the SharkBite chip, or I'm sorry, with the HD Zero chip in it, versus another company. So, let's go ahead and see if we can't squeeze another couple dollars out of the price on this one to entice more people to buy. Yeah. So I think it's a win-win for our FPV community, because now we have better pricing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll get all these cool collaborations. You'll have HD Zero plus Crossfire in a board, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you'll have the Crossfire being able to communicate with the HD Zero in some way and change the channels or the power, and all of those kind of things that we've gotten used to with analog are those really nice integrations.
Absolutely. I am excited for Carl and Divimath. I did purchase the SharkBite system myself and have been along for the ride. And I from everything I've heard and seen, I am just so excited for the future of what's going to be HD Zero to come in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not unrealistic that looking ahead, I don't know, 5 years, that everything that we have with analog now, all the different goggles, all the different VTXs, we will have the same, but with HD Zero.
Yes.
All the different companies, Skyzone and Fat Shark and whoever, they'll all be making goggles with the chip in, and we'll all be buying VTXs with the chip in, and you'll be able to spectate on your buddies as they fly, just like we do with analog now.
And then we would have, hopefully, more plentiful supply of the parts that we need as pilots, because there's more companies now that are using and putting out these products for us. Other than when you have one company, basically that one company is responsible for supplying the whole community with the product.
Yeah.
And that can be challenging, as we've seen with DJI FPV. They've had a hard time of keeping certain products in stock for everybody, especially with the chip shortage and all. So
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
think it's only going to be a benefit for us as a community for what HD Zero and Carl over at Divimath have planned for the future of that technology.
100%.
Let's see. Chris, you should have a chat with Powell. You're probably going to have to say
Oh
this one.
yes, Pavel Spachowski.
iNav dev, YouTuber, and he has made a couple of frames.
Yeah, definitely. I think if there's a lot of demand for some deep dives on iNav, yeah, I'm keen. I'm keen. So yeah, let me know. And I always keep a track when people suggest stuff. I know some people just think, oh, I suggest it and nothing happens. It's not true. I have a spreadsheet where I actually tally up all your suggestions. So the more people suggest things, the more tallies it gets on the spreadsheet, and the higher it moves up the list. So yeah, every one of your suggestions that you make as a comment on any of my YouTube videos is tallied up.
And if you go to Chris's channel, you'll see it, and you go into the comment section, you will see that Chris actively answers the comments and very little, I think, very little response time. You don't make people wait very long before you're answering their questions and you're there showing that support. So make sure you definitely go check out his channel for sure. Doing some great things, great support, backing his new design frames. Let's see here. We have TBS HD0. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's what we're hoping. We're hoping that some of the larger companies that have been established in the analog FPV world will jump on board with Carl and Divimath and start to request these chips and start to design these new high def system VTXs that we can use.
yeah. If TBS make a good HD0 VTX, I will buy it.
Absolutely. And you have the company backing it as well, so that's always a plus. H2O FPV, welcome in, by the way. Thank you so much. He says, hi, Chris. What do you think on the all-in-one flight controller now that they are making for the 5-inch drones? Are you talking about I think it's the one by, is it Lumineer that put out the all-in-one 30 by 30? It's got the, I believe it's a 40 or 50 amp ESC built in to the flight controller.
Yeah, it's crazy how much they're able to cram on those AIOs now. Yeah, I think it's really cool. I definitely think it can make wiring up your drone a lot easier. As long as the feature set's there, as long as it's got black box, as long as it's got a good processor, it's got enough UARTs and everything that you need, then yeah, why not? I think it's a great idea. I would always say, actually, I say this for whatever you're building, the biggest thing that you can do to help protect your ESC is to put a TVS diode or the FETTEC spike absorber, a TVS diode across the battery leads.
Oh.
And particularly for these AIOs, I think it's really important.
Okay. Great information. Thank you for that, Chris. Let's see. That's iFlight and SP Racing. Oh, okay. Is that the one that's making the F7? Okay, iFlight.
Yeah, the F7 Beast. Yeah.
Oh, the F7 Beast, and then the H7.
Yeah. So yeah, lots of companies are starting to, these all-in-ones are getting bigger and bigger and starting to get up to the size where they can run full 5-inch quads, and I think that's really cool.
I think it is cool as well. And it looks like, from what I've seen, it looks like they're making the boards thicker than they used to be for the AIOs, and it looks like they're putting a little bit more attention into the heat dissipation as well, because I know that was a huge hurdle with the AIOs and the 30 by 30s, is you have that ESC, and how do you dissipate that heat to where it doesn't transfer into the flight controller and create other problems. So that's good. I think they really are getting on top of the heat dissipation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is a real challenge. I mean, you've got to it's got to be harder to get good noise isolation, good electrical noise isolation for the gyro when everything's right on top of each other.
Right.
So but that said, um, if they're managing it and it's flying good, then more power to them.
Absolutely. Stevie says you got another vote for the interview with Powell and INAV. Pavel,
Mm-hmm.
is it Shapowski?
Spachowski?
Spachowski.
It is a tricky name.
I'm trying. I am trying tonight, guys. I really am trying to get these names as best I can. Where my 5.5 build is headed. GPS for return to home.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
all
can
right.
do that in Betaflight as well, sort of.
There you go.
More return to crash, but it'll come back and then it'll just keep descending into the ground. But you can do it on Betaflight if you have it set up right. I got it set up on my my 7-inch prototype for GPS return to home on Betaflight. Yeah.
Excellent. I've got a question for you once again. It's a question I ask all my special guests when they come on. Pincher, thumber, or hybrid when you fly FPV, Chris?
Hybrid.
Hybrid. Okay.
Yeah, I'm have my thumbs on top and then my fingers kind of on the next to them.
Okay. You heard it first,
it's not
guys.
a true pinch. It's definitely thumb on top, but then with the finger there for support as well.
I'm a thumber, but you said thumbs on top, so hey, I'm gonna give that an applause there. We got another question. Does Betaflight 4.3 have a PID controller for the dynamic idle? I think I've read something along those lines. Could you talk about that a bit if it exists?
Yeah, so I'm not. I'm just starting to get into 4.3. So I'm I do a lot of work in engineering companies, and I have a wariness around unreleased software. It's unreleased for a reason, right?
Right.
because it's still being worked on.
It's not done. Exactly.
And so I'm always I'm always that person who's going to be like, I'm going to wait until the release candidate.
Okay.
Before I really get into something, but I've been convinced. Sugar on the Discord has been like working on me for a while, saying I have to try it. So he's gonna put me a build together, and if it explodes my quad, then I am going to send him a bill. but yeah, I'm gonna give it a go. But dynamic idle is really cool, and I don't think enough people use it. And I'm actually going to be doing a video explaining on how to set dynamic idle up properly for like all different sizes of quad. Like, what if you've got like a 2-inch or a 3-inch or a 7-inch or a 12-inch X class? How should you set your dynamic idle? So
very good information.
But yeah, it's a really cool feature. And I don't know if you necessarily need a PID controller for it. Maybe one does exist. I'm not familiar with how it's implemented in the code. But yeah, it basically just keeps all your props spinning at a minimum RPM. So in an adverse flow situation where you're sort of falling through the air the wrong way, the air going back through the props slows them down. And if it slows the props down too much, it's hard for the motor to speed up again. And dynamic idle basically stops that happening. It says, no matter what happens, I will never let the props fall below a certain RPM. I'll just add throttle to keep them at that RPM. And so you never get into a situation where the motor is spinning so slowly that it cannot respond quickly enough to what you're telling it to do. And so, yeah, dynamic idle, super important. Everyone should be using it. And I'm going to do a video on how to set it up for any size of build very soon.
Makes sense. And I have one more question for you, and it kind of rolls into what you said. You said you're going to make the dynamic idle for any size frame out there for a tutorial. What is your favorite size frame to fly freestyle, Chris?
With or without GoPro?
With GoPro.
With GoPro, it's got to be the 5.5 for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
If you want to carry a Hero 7 or a Hero 8 or a Hero 9, any of these sort of heavier action cameras, yeah, the 5.5-inch props are just like that. It's it's got that effortless feeling. That the power and the lift and the thrust even with the heavier camera on is just effortless. It doesn't feel like the quad is struggling with the weight. And sometimes on the 5 or even the 5.1-inch prop with the heavier action cameras, it can sometimes feel like the quad is just struggling a little bit with that very heavy camera.
Absolutely.
So,
I've flown the GoPro Hero 8 Black on 5-inch props, and I flew the GoPro Hero 9 Black a handful of times, and you could quickly feel that it was just too much weight for that 5-inch prop. I think honestly, for a 5-inch frame with spinning a 5-inch prop, I wouldn't go any larger than a GoPro Hero 7 at the absolute largest for that size. Really, would you agree on that?
I would agree. In fact, I might even be more conservative than you. I typically say for the AOS 5, obviously you run whatever camera you want, but I typically recommend a Hero Session or something like a Runcam Orange. One of those
Session's my favorite camera, but it's becoming extremely hard to come by anymore. And GoPro has removed it from their GoPro Plus program that we have here in the States. So now when you turn in a session for the GoPro Plus warranty program, you now get a Hero 7 in its place with a battery.
Right.
So I'm like, well, if I have to switch to another GoPro, the 7's it's quite a bit lighter and smaller than the 8. And I have flown it, and it did feel pretty good. It was a little bit more aggressive pitch prop for me on 6S.
And a 5.1 as well, if you can as well. That helps.
That'll help some too, just a little bit extra on the tip there.
Yeah, but for a sort of heavier camera, like I would say for a Hero 7, 8, or 9 is usually my recommendation. Go for the 5.5, and I don't think people will be disappointed. I think they'll find it has the same responsiveness as the 5-inch, or very nearly the same. But
yeah,
it just handles that extra weight so much more gracefully.
Okay. And it's not like that much of a change. It's not like you're going from a 5 to a 6-inch.
No.
You're kind of having that sweet spot in the middle where, yes, you've increased your stance a little bit, but the benefits that you're gaining from that, allowing to be able to tote a heavier camera and have that same responsive and same feel as a 5-inch, has got to be definitely a great benefit.
Yes, yeah, it is really good.
Chris, what do you think of the FetTech TVS? Is it any better than any standard TVS you can buy for a fraction of the price on eBay? Good question.
No, it's not any better. They've just literally put 3 standard TVS diodes that you can buy from a diode manufacturer on a board. So if you can buy the right ones, and if you're interested to know what type they're using, I know. So you can email me or drop a comment on one of my videos or anything like that, and I'll tell you which type they're using, and then you can go buy them yourself, and they're much less. And then you could just solder them up somehow yourself, maybe on a bit of Variboard or something, as you want to.
Okay.
Yes,
and that was another question I was going to ask you is, if somebody is watching this back after we're live or wants to get a hold of you off the stream, what's the best way for them to reach out to you, Chris, to be able to get their questions answered?
Lots of different ways, and they all work pretty well. The contact form on AOSRC, at the bottom of every page there's a contact form. You can hit me up there. You can leave a comment on any of my videos. Go for the most recent videos, usually the best one. It's the ones that I tend to focus on. You can send me an email, chrisrosser91@gmail.com.
All right.
Yeah, those are probably the best ways. You can even try me on Messenger, Facebook Messenger. I have that. That's a bit more hit and miss, but give it a go. Or you can find me on Discord. I hang around a few Discord servers. JB's Discord server. UAV Tech, Crunks. You can @ me in those places. So
So how did it feel to have your name mentioned by the iconic and very well respected Joshua Bardwell? I mean, that must have
Yeah.
just put a big smile on your face when he said on his thumbnail, "Chris Rosser thinks he's so smart."
Yeah. Mixed emotions, right? Because that can either be very good or very bad.
Uh huh.
That's either gonna kind of really boost the channel or kill it stone
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was very happy that he has been really positive about the work that I've been doing, and even like tuned his QAVS according to my recommendations, and then flew it and was like, yeah, it flies really good now. And so I think that's a big endorsement.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
appreciate
One
it.
of the biggest. Yeah. We appreciate you, Joshua Bardwell, and Blunty, and all the work you guys put into the community. Greatly appreciate you
Mm,
guys. And Chris does as well.
I really
Let's
do.
see
Yeah.
here. We had a couple other questions that popped in. How do you know what size TVS to use for the diode?
So I would just copy the ones that FetTech are using on their spike absorber,
Okay.
because they've obviously figured out the right size to use, because that works great. So
Uh
I
huh.
know I can, if you email me or whatever, get in touch with me, I'll send you a link to the part number that they're using, so that you can go buy it and then use it as you want to. And I just check, if you check their board to make sure you get like the polarity right and all of that stuff, then you should be good to go. But yeah, I don't really know how you choose the right size other than just to copy one that you know works. Because you could go bigger, but then is that too big? Or you could go smaller, but then it might blow up. I mean, yeah, just copy them. It seems to work.
There you go. They've already put the research in, and it's been tried, true, and tested. So why not go ahead and use something that's still working?
Yeah, just copy what they do.
We got another question here. When there are horizontal lines in the frequency versus throttle plots,
Mm.
is that electrical interference?
So my understanding is that those are typically what you're seeing is a step. There's some sort of step in the log, because a step function has equal magnitude across all the frequencies. So yeah, something is causing steps in your log rather than a sort of smooth curve for the gyro, and typically that's electrical noise that's gonna cause that.
Okay.
Could also be something tapping on the gyro, maybe a loose wire or something. But I mean, that's pretty unlikely, because most people kind of carefully route their wires. So yeah, I'd go with probably electrical noise for that. But obviously check you've not got anything that can tap against the gyro. But that's why you're seeing that. There's some sort of step in the gyro
Hmm.
trace at that throttle position. It's just stepping occasionally, and that's giving you that broad horizontal swath on the
And what are
log.
one of the most more common reasons as to, like, or what are the most common culprits that creates those electrical interferences that you've seen from your testing, Chris?
Um, yeah, I mean, typically it's caused by the ESC.
Uh huh.
Some ESCs have sort of heat spreaders on, or things on the top of them, like metal plates, which help get rid of a lot of EMI. You can also use those interference boards. I wonder if I
Yeah,
have
yeah, I
them.
think Diatone has been including some of those also with their flight stacks.
Yes.
They've been including those little interference shields. They're it's like a little piece of paper that you put right in between,
Yeah.
and those actually work out pretty well from your testing there, Chris, huh?
Oh, they're really good. I mean,
Good.
it's belt and braces, right? But if you really care about getting the noise as low as possible,
Uh
you
huh.
can put one of those in. They're not expensive, and that'll just isolate your flight controller from any EMI from your ESC. You just put it between. So yeah, I definitely recommend giving that a go if you've got electrical noise, or just tidying up your wiring if the wiring is a bit all over the place. Is there a way to tidy it? You can also solder a small capacitor, 22 microfarad, onto the 5-volt pad. So from you know, on the flight controller, you have the ground and the 5-volt.
Yep.
You pick any of those, and you solder a 22 microfarad capacitor onto it. That can help as well.
That can help with it as well. Okay.
So yeah, any of those.
Okay. And we have another question here. Is it true that wiring your Vista direct to the battery can cause a defect to the UART on the flight controller connected for the OSD?
Huh. I've only ever wired my Vistas to the battery voltage, I think.
Huh. Can cause a defect on the UART.
I've never had a problem. Maybe other people in the chat can weigh in if they've had issues with that. Oh, I just saw Crunked mention. Yeah. There's a ground pad on the insulation board, and you have to connect it to the ground of your ESC or flight controller.
Oh, okay. Could you show that a little closer to the camera there, Chris?
Yeah. So it has a little tiny gold pad. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah, you have to connect that to the ground of your ESC or flight controller. I typically do the ESC, but I think you can do either.
Okay.
And it's not nothing. They do something if you don't connect them, but they work much better if you do connect them. They work a lot better if you do. So yeah, good one. Good catch there, Crunk.
Yes, very good information. Thank you for that, Crunk. Greatly appreciate you throwing that up there. He said, yes, the offending one isn't shielded. Let's see.
Okay, cool.
I run 2 TVS pole to pole, giving a diode voltage around 30.5 volts. Is that close enough on 6S, or should the diode voltage be closer to the battery voltage?
I think the ones that FetTech are using have a breakdown voltage between 26 and 29 volts.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's the one. I don't know. Can I post in the chat myself?
You should be able to, as long as you can see it.
I can see the comments, but I can't see the. I can't see a box to type in them.
Okay, you may have to use either another device or open up a second window with the live stream and then just pop out chat.
Cool. Yeah, I'll try.
Or I can try to help you if there's something you want me to put in the chat, like a link to something.
Yeah, I just wonder if it's worth actually sending showing the type that they're using, but maybe it's something that I'll.
Can you share screen maybe?
Yeah, I probably can do. I'm just going to see if I can find it quickly.
And I can put you on solo when you get your screen pulled up.
Okay. So yeah, there's like, you can kind of see. Yeah, here it is. How do I share? Here we go. Nice.
You see? Okay, cool. You got the share button there?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll blow you up solo here.
Cool. And if I do that, we should be good. And then I can drag this window over here, and hopefully you can see that. I hope everyone can see that. I don't know. I see.
Oh, yep. I got you. Let me add that to stream.
Nice.
There we go.
So you can probably read there if you zoom in a bit. I'll try and zoom in a bit. It says 833 GEZ. So if you go ahead and Google 833 GEZ diode, you will get a data sheet from Diodes Incorporated. Here they are. Here are the guys.
Oh,
Diodes
nice.
Incorporated. And if you scroll down, you go to the marking code and you look for GEZ here. So we're on this row. Probably no one can see that, but anyway. And you can see the breakdown voltage there. Minimum breakdown voltage is 26.7 volts. Maximum breakdown voltage, 29.5 volts. Nominal voltage, 24. So that is the TVS diode that FetTech are using in their spike absorber, and you can buy it. So
Nice.
if you don't want to buy a spike absorber, you want to buy a diode, go buy that. And I think everyone should have one on every build, because for a very good reason, which is that the spikes on the battery voltage are a lot bigger than I think a lot of people might expect. So if you're on 4S and you have sudden changes in motor speed, you can get voltage spikes up to 40 volts.
Wow.
So like more than twice what your, like 2.5 times what your battery voltage is, you can get spikes up to. So if you imagine you're on 6S now, so you've got 25 volts, 2.5 times that, you're up to 62.5 volts. That's over the voltage rating of the FETs that we're using. And any time you expose a FET to more than its rated voltage, you start to damage it. Just a little bit. But
So
every time it happens, the damage builds up.
Would you recommend using these diodes in addition to the low ESR capacitors that we traditionally use on the ESCs, Chris?
Absolutely. Absolutely, in addition to, yeah.
Okay, in addition, absolutely.
So what I do, I use the FETTech spike absorber myself, just because it comes as a nice board, and I just solder that right onto the capacitor legs. And then I solder the capacitor to the ESC pads as you would normally.
Easy. I mean, it seems like you could probably just heat shrink it all together.
That's
keep
exactly
it nice
what I
and
do,
clean, yeah. And it doesn't look like it's maybe the size of a pinky nail.
It's pretty much exactly the same size as a 35 volt 1000 microfarad capacitor.
Huh.
So it fits just perfectly as you'd expect.
Awesome. Great information. I will definitely start doing that myself. I will definitely get some of those ordered after the live stream. I think that's a great idea, and that in tune can help not only with lowering the interferences that you may get to the flight controller, but this also may help with video noise issues as well, Chris.
Yeah, it'll help with noise. It'll help with interference, and primarily it will help with durability of your ESC.
Okay.
It will really help with durability of your ESC.
Yes, we are, Cyberdeck. The Q&A is open for Chris, so if you have any questions for Chris, myself, or the chat, feel free to put it in there, and we will get to it in a timely manner.
Yeah, and it's a single. They asked if it's single polarity or both ways, which was Mechanican. It's just one way. So what it does is it when the voltage spikes up, it clamps it and basically says, once I get to 26.7 volts, it becomes a short circuit and it just cuts the spike. So
very nice.
Useful, very useful.
Very nice. Yeah, so Chris was saying that just take your low ESR capacitor legs, run those through the diode. They have holes already in the diode that you can run those legs through, add a bit of solder to keep it stable, and then you can actually just kind of actually have it line right up with the actual capacitor itself, and then just put some heat shrink over it to keep it secure. Cyberdeck says he has a iFlight Beast H7 AIO, and no matter which ESC firmware I try, I cannot get bidirectional D-Shot to work, and it will not arm. I do know, I'm going to jump on this one just because I have heard of this before, but I do know that not all ESCs are compatible with bidirectional D-Shot. But maybe there's a workaround that you know of, Chris?
I think it is a known problem with some H7 chips.
Okay.
I think it's an H7 issue rather than an ESC issue. But people in the chat can weigh in if they know more than I do about that.
Okay.
So I think H7s can be tricky with bidirectional D-Shot. It shouldn't matter whether you're BL-HELI-S or BL-HELI-32. You should be able to get bidirectional D-Shot working with the right firmware. BL-HELI-32 it will work out of the box, and then BL-HELI-S you'll have to change to BL-HELI-M or JESC or BlueJ or one of the other firmwares that supports it.
Exactly. Okay.
And Cyberdeck Cafe said that the TVS diode doesn't help for 4S. I would say that it can help on 4S because it's not about the battery voltage, it's about the voltage that your FETs can take. So if your FETs are rated for 6S, then you should be using a TVS diode for 6S. Because it's about the voltage that the FETs can withstand on the ESC, not the voltage on your battery. And even a 4S pack can spike up to 40 volts. So even a 4S pack can spike high enough potentially to damage even 6S rated FETs. So
wow.
Yeah, you know, could be worth thinking about. It's certainly less of a concern on 4S than 6S though. So
yeah.
You know, obviously because the voltages are lower, so you're less likely to hit it.
Good to know, for sure. Absolutely. Single polarity or both ways?
You just need single polarity. You don't need both ways.
Okay, just need single polarity. Yeah. Let's see, I think I just saw one here. Chris, I conformal coated my parts and put copper tape on the ESC and hooked the tape to VBAT minus for shielding.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that actually helps on the video noise, or my analog is only a placebo?
No, it'll help. No, it's worth doing. Yeah.
How do you feel about conformal coating, Chris? What's your kind of your stance on the conformal coating?
I don't worry about it too much.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not because I don't think it helps. That's just because I'm lazy.
Yeah. I kind of steered away from it when I saw that a lot of the vendors, when you get new parts in, it's obviously a lot easier to just go ahead and conformal coat them when you have them and they're not in the build, and then just go ahead and apply a little bit of conformal coating on your soldering joints after you're done.
Yeah.
However, I did learn and realize that a lot of the vendors will void the if you have a DOA. If you have a flight controller or ESC that's dead on arrival, you can conformal coat it, and you don't know it's dead yet because you haven't hooked it up.
Yeah.
That will actually void any chance of you returning that and getting a replacement on a DOA product for some of the vendors. So in tune, you would have to test out the part first without the conformal coating, confirm that the part actually is working. Then you would have to go ahead and conformal coat and then install it and then retouch up. So that kind of steered me off of it. I'm like, it just seems like a lot to go through, and I really don't fly in rain that much. So.
Me neither. I don't fly in rain. And actually, I do fly over wet grass, long wet grass, without conformal coating, and I haven't ever had a problem.
Yeah.
Not to say that other people won't have issues. Cue the chat being like, I flew over grass and it was like a dewy morning and I landed and my ESC exploded. But I haven't had an issue, touch wood. So I'm gonna keep going without the conformal coating myself. But yeah, no, it's if you're flying in wet conditions or snow or anything like that, it's not a bad shout to think about, is it?
That's right. Drone 3 Droid said that he is running bidirectional D-shot on a Maytech H7.
Okay.
So the previous comment about the can the bidirectional D-shot, I think, work with the iFlight Beast. Maybe it's more of a not necessarily H7 issue, but maybe the actual brand of the ESC may not be supported yet for the bidirectional D-shot. It could be, especially if it's newer. They may not have the software side of things done for that particular brand of ESC at the current time.
A quick Google says that the iFlight Beast H7 has an RPM filtering issue. There's lots of forum posts about it not working. Apparently, there is some hardware, something about that hardware configuration that's not figured out yet, but it's not working with RPM filtering.
Okay. So it's not just you're having that issue. It's a known issue, which kind of stinks because you don't get the benefits of the bidirectional D-shot with that particular flight controller, which kind of stinks. But no workaround at this point, I guess. Let's see. Well, if the bidirectional D-shot is very important to you, then I would suggest maybe trying a different ESC. Maybe try the Maytech a different flight controller. Maybe try the bidirectional on the Maytech H7.
Yeah, I can confirm that the iFlight Beast F7 works with bidirectional D-Shot, no problem.
Okay. Or the iFlight
So if you like
F7.
that form factor and you like that configuration, then the F7 version of the Beast is definitely, working with bidirectional D-Shot.
Okay. King Turkey, thanks for coming in the chat. Greatly appreciate you stopping by. Does it matter where the TVS diode is added? Example, added to the ESC wire harness breakout pads, VCC pad instead of the ESC battery leads.
It's kind of like the capacitor in that you probably want it as close to the ESC pads that you attach the battery lead to as possible. So the closer you can get it. What I typically do is I have it with the capacitor all heat shrunk up, and then I cut the legs of so the capacitor goes into the TVS diode board, and then I solder motor wire onto that board because I think the capacitor legs are pretty thin, so I cut them off short, and then I solder motor wire onto there and have a short length of motor wire. And then I solder that right on top of where I solder my XT60 pigtail to the ESC. I solder straight on top with a short wire.
That makes sense because those legs, not only are they extremely thin, and I feel like they get a little bit brittle on the low ESR capacitors, but the more they wobble about and get kind of jarred around by the wires and everything that's around it, they can snap rather easily and break off. And actually, sometimes, unless you're actually really looking down in your frame, it's very hard to spot if one of those legs actually did come detached.
Yeah.
I like the wire solution a lot better there for using the motor wire.
Yeah, and the TVS board, you've got your cap soldered on kind of one side, and you've cut it off flush, and you've got a nice pad on the other side to solder the motor wire to, and get a good connection there, and get everything all nicely connected together. So that's what I do. Yeah.
Okay. Got a 3-inch quad trying to use for 3D flying. I presume. When switching motor direction, it bobbles horribly. Something wrong with the actual build itself, or is actually something going on with actual 3D mode? I think they're asking. Maybe.
So when the motor stops and changes direction, that's quite hard for it to do. So that can cause, a moment where you're losing control. I would say it could, that might be fixable by doing things like enabling air mode if you haven't got air mode on. Pushing up your PID gains higher so that the quad is going to respond more aggressively to try and stabilize itself in the air. If none of that works, that could just be that it's hard for the quad when it's having to change the direction of the props, because when it stops the props and then starts in the other direction, it doesn't have a back EMF to commutate the motor, so it has to get the motor started in the other direction, and then it can start to commutate, and only then can it actually control the speed. So try air mode. I guess you've probably got air mode on anyway, but make sure air mode is permanently enabled, and then try pushing your PID gains up and seeing if that helps.
And definitely check your motors for heat when you adjust your PIDs. Do probably increment, I'd say, of maybe like 3 points.
Yeah,
you think, and then
typically say
test.
like 0.1 on the master slider.
Okay, 0.1 on the master slider, and then check your motors for heat.
Yeah, and that's usually pretty safe.
Okay, absolutely. Conformal coating prevents the copper tape from shorting the FETs.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Good advantage to doing that with the conformal coating. Let's see. FET-Tech absorber. I'd get noise on a punch out, and after adding it, so there's another. Someone, Cyberdeck Cafe is saying that the FET-Tech absorber does help.
Yeah,
a ton with shark bite,
definitely,
which is nice. I'll definitely have to give that a try as well. Yeah, I'm really liking what I'm hearing with this FETTech, the diodes. It sounds like a no-brainer, and it doesn't seem like it would be hardly much difficult at all to incorporate that into your build at all. It's not like it's going to require any great deal of changing around the way where it's going to fit in the build. It fits right
No,
along with the
it fits straight along with the
capacitor.
capacitor. It's very easy.
Absolutely. Let me see what we have here. Not 100% sure, but the H7 should be fixed in Betaflight 4.3.
Oh, that's
Okay,
good. So
that's good to
yeah,
know.
if you want it now, you can go and talk to Sugar or one of the other devs and get a build.
Oh, all right.
So yeah, because there are 4.3 nightlies available, and if you need it because you want the feature, then yeah, go try it out.
Absolutely.
Worth going. I wouldn't recommend it unless you really need it, because yeah, it's still unreleased. But if you need it, you can go try.
Give it a try for sure. Is there just no way to get that kind of small quad to behave nicely? All my others love 3D.
I don't know if that's a question for us or just a response in the chat. I
That
think
might be.
yeah, try upping your PID gains and air mode. That's all I can suggest.
Oh yeah, we talked about that. Yep. Let's see here. Now from the battery, it's back EMF from the motors. What about using a spike absorber to prevent damage to air unit or Cadex Vista?
Yeah, it will do that. I mean, because it'll prevent the voltage anywhere in your quad from going above 26.7 volts to 29.5 volts. So you'll get those spikes from that voltage spike from the motor, but it just will never be able to actually spike. It'll just get cut off, and so it protects everything. But the voltage regulators that are used are typically pretty resilient to voltage spikes, because it's sort of what they're designed to deal with. But the FETs, yeah, anytime you overvolt a FET, you shorten its life. So every time your motor is slowing down and the voltage is spiking up to 60 volts, and it's for like microseconds, it's for tiny, tiny short periods of time, very, very short. But every time that happens, you just damage those FETs a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more.
Interesting.
And it just builds and builds up over time. And eventually, the question is, are those spikes going to kill the ESC before it dies for another reason? But eventually, it's going to kill it. Yeah, that's the TVS diode just stops that damage.
And I mean, it seems like they're inexpensive enough to where it's just a no-brainer. Like the positives outweigh any negatives that I could even think of even using one. So
yeah, I mean, I've been on an iFlight for a little while about fitting TVS diodes to their ESCs, and the new iFlight 55 amp had this one, the X-shaped one. Okay, people can see that. Probably can't. The 55 amp 20 by 20 has a TVS diode on it.
Oh, nice. So they're already listening and taking your input and incorporating that into the components.
Yeah, because then you don't need a spike absorber board if the manufacturer puts it on the ESC,
which would make it even cleaner. It doesn't seem like it would take up that much real estate either.
No, you can use they're using a pretty small one on the 55 amp, and it seems to be working for them. So yeah. I think in a little while, all ESCs will have them.
Yeah.
I just think the more that we raise awareness that this is something that everyone needs to think about and put on their builds to just stop ESCs blowing, very soon the manufacturers will be like, yeah, we're just going to put it on the ESC.
That's great. I mean, that's something great that will benefit all of us down the road and have the ESCs possibly last longer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one of the more expensive parts of the build. We all know that.
Yeah, and it's also, it's so disheartening when you've just got a nice brand new build and you go and you clip a branch, or you get caught in some scraggle or something and you pop an ESC. It's just
oh yeah, you're pretty much dead in the water there. You're done for the day with that particular quad.
Yeah, exactly. It's you can't fix it, and like you say, the ESC is is expensive to replace, and particularly these 4-in-1s, only takes one of them to go, and that's it. You're out $50 or whatever it is for the new SC.
That's right. Just a general question, but if you get a no gyro randomly, is that just a bad flight controller? I would say yeah. You ever get no gyro, that's not good. Not good at all. And you definitely don't want to try to fly it. I think actually most of the new software won't even let you arm if it's not getting a gyro reading anyway. So
yeah, the no gyro randomly is a bit worrying, because if it goes out mid-flight,
yeah,
that's going to be a bad time.
Yeah, and honestly, if it's starting to do it intermittently, it's probably just a sign that it's slowly dying and just hasn't been killed all the way.
Yeah.
Question: do you have a tuning recommendation when you can't use, I'm guessing,
bidirectional D-shot?
Bidirectional D-shot.
Yeah, you can try. You can try my standard filter tuning recommendation, but instead of 0-250 for the dynamic notch, leave it at 8-120. So leave it at the stock dynamic notch settings, and give that a go.
Okay.
Should be okay.
Let's see here. Let's do it that way. Okay. Yep. So that's just a comment in the chat there. Vaytre Fly says, how do you feel about the S-Bang style of flight? The shebang?
Yeah. I mean, it's a style, I think, that really rewards a very well-tuned quad, that can be very sharp and direct. And I think that we're going to see more of that style start getting incorporated into like more proximity type stuff, because it's I've seen some videos where it's being done in quite an open field and it's really impressive, but then I've also seen some where it's been done around trees and in more proximity, and that takes to a whole nother level. And if you want to do that and do it really well, I think you're going to struggle on the stock Betaflight tune. I think you're going to need to push your tune a little bit to get the responsiveness and the confidence that you need for those type of moves in proximity to objects. And so, yeah, I'm all for it. Why not?
Yeah, juicy flying, any kind of flying where you're demanding a lot on the motors to speed up and speed down, to do those different types of maneuvers and quickly go from one maneuver to the next maneuver. I mean, you're putting a lot of strain on the actual ESC from the spinning up and down of the motor, so you definitely want to have a good PID tune to help carry that out.
Absolutely, yeah. You want to have your tune dialed in, and that's definitely more important for that style of flying than like maybe a smoother style where you're not pushing the PIDs as hard, you're not pushing the quad as hard.
Guys, I gotta say, I'm blown away. This has been one of the best Q&As I have ever had on the live stream. I am just blown away. Thank you guys so much for your interaction, your nice questions, bringing them in the chat for Chris and myself. Chris, I got one more question for you to close this out for the Q&A.
Sure.
Have you thought about, or would you think about now after the stream having your own live Q&A sessions on your channel?
Yeah, it's been something I've been thinking about. It was always something I thought, I'll do it when the channel's a bit bigger, when stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. If people really want, really like these kind of deep dive Q&As and live streams, and yeah, I could definitely do it. But it's certainly fun doing it with a co-host. So yeah, absolutely, be careful recommending that. I might recruit you.
Yeah, right? That sounds like a good time to me. I will say, having, I would say, anywhere from 15 to 30 in the live chat is a really good number to be able to get to everybody's comments and questions without people having to wait, too long to get to them. So sometimes I think smaller might be a little bit better when it comes to that personal one-on-one Q&A. So I would definitely take that into consideration. I think your channel is doing amazing. Your growth is phenomenal. You're building up a great following of some great supporters for your channel, and I can't wait to see what more you bring to the table and to this great community and this hobby.
Yeah, well, I mean, the exciting things. Um, there's going to be binder flies.
Ah,
That's
okay.
that's a big that's a big thing. There's going to
That
be
is a
binder
big thing,
flies.
yeah, because a lot of people get these binding flies and they just fly them however they are out of the box and they just accept however it flies and go from there. But
Mm.
if you could give a more detailed PID tune on an exact binding fly, now you're getting somewhere because now you're able to say if you have this exact binding fly, this PID tune is going to make it fly 25, 30% better, whatever the number may be.
I'm
That
hoping
adds a
to
lot of
go.
value.
I'm hoping to go one step further, and the tune's going to be on it from the factory.
Oh,
So you're not even
that
going
would
to
be
have to watch a
awesome.
video. It's just going to come tuned.
And
Fingers crossed.
actually
I'm working
say
on it.
the Chris Rosser tune.
It's going to have the tune. Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah,
come with the tune on it. Really excited to be working with iFlight on that.
that's
And
awesome.
yeah, so very soon. So yeah, you can just if you don't want to, rather than just get a tune and it comes with a stock tune, it's going to have a pretty aggressive tune on it from the get go. So that should be hopefully a lot of fun for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. To be able to buy something in the box, solder up or plug in your receiver or your air unit or whatever, and be able to take it out of the box and it already has a really great PID tune on it to be able to get some awesome, HD footage out of the box. Man, that's awesome. Great value that you would add to an already great existing product out there.
Yeah, so that's the key. So hopefully that will be coming out soon.
Stay tuned to Chris Rosser, guys. Link in the video description. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell icon so you get notified first when he puts out new and exciting content. Which sounds to me he's got a lot on the books. He's got a lot to come, so definitely going to want to stay tuned for that. I will get to this last question right here, because I do think it is important. Chris, do you think an undersized TVS will underperform or possibly blow up?
It won't underperform. It might blow up
When you say
because
blow up,
if
is
it's
that
a
just going to be like a puff of smoke, or could it be more severe?
hard to know. I mean, it depends how it fails. If it fails short circuit, it'll just draw so much current. I don't know what would happen.
Mm.
It would probably just vaporize itself. Um,
And being
but
close to if you're using it the way Chris had recommended with the low ESR capacitor, now you run the chance of damaging your low ESR capacitor, possibly your ESC.
mm,
So I would just be safe than sorry and just go with the recommended TVS that Chris had provided earlier in the stream.
yeah, I
Um,
would I would I would buy something. I would buy something that sort of size. And I mean, with these things, is it you know if you can get hold of the right one. I mean, if you can get hold of the spike absorber board, I mean that's a nice way to go. Very safe, tried and tested. If you buy the same diodes they're using, you probably don't need three. You probably get away with one or two. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, then um, if you go smaller, my background is not in electronics design, so I'm not the right person to be able to assess whether that's going to be okay or not. When it comes to electronics, I'm just happy to copy what has already been done and proven to work.
I mean, and is there really any like huge price difference between a lower spec TVS versus the ones that we recommended? I mean, really, it probably negligible.
No, I mean, what's this whole spike absorber board coming to? I mean, it's like $5.
Right. I mean,
Yeah, it's
I
five
would
dollars.
I would just spend the $5, get the tried, true, and tested diode that Chris recommended, and then that way for 100% fact it's rated for what you could possibly get spiked up.
Yeah, it's going to be fine. And I've used that FetTech spike absorber on 7-inch quads, no problem. It's fine. So it's probably overkill probably for anything.
Yeah,
But you know, when you're talking about protection components, overkill is what you want, right?
that's right. Hey, good to
Um,
see you, Michael Blade, and props off. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Greatly appreciate you smashing that like button, and make sure you show Chris Rosser some love as well, and subscribe. Link in the video description. And wow, this has been a great stream, Chris. Thank you so much for coming and being able to use my platform to help so many tonight. And he's not done, guys. If you have other additional questions for Chris, reach out to him. Check out his YouTube channel. Leave a comment on some of his newer videos. Send him an email. And he'll be glad to get back to you and help you out.
yeah, and I'm always lurking around in various Discord servers, so you can find me there too.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to go ahead and bring it to a close. I think we've had a wonderful stream. Thank you so much for all that you do and continue to do for our hobby, Chris. Greatly appreciate you.
Thanks very much, Eric. Really nice to be on your show here and take the questions, and loads of good questions. And I hope people enjoyed it, and look forward to seeing them in the comments on my videos. And I'll be following your content as well. I've been really enjoying it.
Greatly appreciate that. We got more coming, that's for sure. And yeah, I look forward to hopefully being able to join one of your Q&As one day on your channel, which I could just see it. I could see that would be a great thing that you would have on your channel, and I think it would go really well.
All right. Well, thank you for the suggestion. Yeah, I definitely got to get that working. So yeah, so that people can ask their questions.
Absolutely. Well, guys, make sure you subscribe. Chris Rosser, link in the video description, doing some amazing things. And I want to thank you guys out there for all your support on my channel. Greatly appreciate it. If this is your first time over, thank you for stopping by. Please consider hitting that subscribe button, smash the like button, hit that bell icon so you get notified first when I put out new content. And until next time, guys, E-Drone and Chris Rosser, out.
See you later. Have a good one.
We'll see you guys around. Thanks so much.